Chapter 34. When she was tired from walking around the streets, she strolled to this tea house to rest and have a cup of tea to moisten her throat. Who would have thought that a pot of tea would cost her 1,000 taels of silver? She was in so much pain. No wonder after she ordered this pot of tea, the waiter respectfully welcomed her upstairs. It seemed like he really thought of her as a fat sheep to be slaughtered. Fortunately, the fine tea and snacks here were complimentary, or else she would feel even more pain. The tea house on the second floor was indeed a place for the rich. The design of the tea house was strange. The 4 bamboo walls were hung with famous calligraphy and paintings. The calligraphy and paintings of this world were similar to that of ancient China. The paintings were done with fine brushwork, and the words were written with bold cursive script. The calligraphy and paintings hanging here were also by famous masters. Ning Xuema had heard of a few of them before. Every piece of calligraphy and painting was worth a lot. Any one of them could be exchanged for a few thousand taels of silver. Among these calligraphy and paintings, the landscape painting hanging in the middle was the largest and most conspicuous. It was a landscape painting with splashed ink. The mountains were stacked on top of each other, and the clouds and mist were rising. There were strange trees and strange rocks and mountain streams. All of them were majestic and full of spiritual energy. It made people feel as if they were in the mountains. There was a line of words inscribed in the corner. The words were like dragons and snakes. They were elegant and had a proud character like a winter plum blossom. The inscription was the number of years the painting was done, and the name of the painter. Han Shanyue. Ning Xuemo read out the name of the painter. She knew that this was a leading figure in the world of calligraphy and painting. It was equivalent to Su Beihong and Qi Baishe in her era. Any one of their paintings could be exchanged for a few mansions, and it was extremely difficult to find one. It seemed like this tea house had indeed spent a lot of money to improve the taste of the entire tea house. Ning Xuema drank a mouthful of tea and swallowed a piece of snack. Suddenly, she felt that the 1,000 taels of silver was not so painful. Money was a bastard. She could still earn money after spending it. With her ability, why would she be afraid of not being able to earn money in this era? Moreover, she had just inquired about a way to earn money. She heard that there were countless herbs in the Tianshu mountain, which was 100 miles away from the main city. There was no lack of precious herbs. In a few days, she would go there and take a look. Perhaps she would be lucky enough to pick some extremely rare ones. If that happened, she would have struck it rich. However, she heard that there were a lot of magical beasts in the mountains. Many herb gatherers who went there never returned. This caused the medicinal herbs produced there to be very scarce in the market. If she wanted to go there, she had to prepare well. She couldn't act blindly. She transmigrated here to laugh at the world, not to feed the magical beasts. She lowered her head, and was thinking about the next step of making money when the light at the door dimmed. 2 people walked in hand. Both of them were dressed in luxurious clothes. The man had a tall and straight figure and a handsome face. His eagle-like eyes exuded the dignity of a superior person. When he turned around, they radiated radiance in all directions. The woman's hair was tied up in a bun, and her makeup was exquisite. Every movement of hers had the demeanor of a noble lady. The layout of this tea house was unique, like a modern music tea house. There were translucent screens and potted plants between the tea houses. Ning Xuema was sitting near the window, in a relatively quiet corner. Therefore, when the 2 people came in, they did not see her. Ning Xuema only glanced at the 2 people before withdrawing her gaze. The 6th prince, Ji Yunhao, was her body's former fiancé. He no longer had any relationship with her. Her energy was limited, so she would not pay attention to irrelevant people. As for the woman beside him, the corners of Ning Xuema's mouth slightly hooked up. She picked up the teacup and took a sip of tea. Chapter 35. The corners of Ning Xuema's lips curled up slightly. She picked up the teacup and took a sip. She closed her eyes and listened to the zither playing from behind the beaded curtains. The zither playing skills of a zither player here were naturally at the pinnacle of perfection. The sound of the zither was like flowing water, leisurely drifting through the fragrance of the tea, giving people a rare sense of tranquility. Ning Xuema knew how to play the zither. After all, when she was in the modern era, she liked to listen to some ancient music in her free time. What zither, pipa, eru piano, as long as it was light music, she liked to listen to it. She even played a few pieces herself as a form of entertainment. Although she had never heard the zither playing this piece before, it had the advantage of being quiet and secluded. It could cleanse the soul. She felt that drinking tea and listening to this would allow her to calm down and think about her own matters. The other customers in the tea house were also quietly listening and occasionally whispering to each other. Pa! A crisp sound broke the silence of the mountain forest. Everyone was startled and turned to look at the source of the sound. That tea set was used by someone else. Didn't I tell you to keep a red clay tea set? Miss Hu Daichang was angry. The waiter who had brought the tea set for their table looked at the broken teacup on the ground with heartache and retorted in a low voice. Miss Hu, this set is the red clay tea set that you often use. You never used the bamboo red clay tea set, so I gave it to another customer to use. Just because I often use this set doesn't mean I'll use it again this time. Since I told you to keep it, you have to keep it for me. Hurry up and get that tea set back, wash it properly and send it to me. If you say another word, I'll break your dog leg. Hu Daichang wanted to show off her prestige as the daughter of a great general in front of Ji Yunhao. So she became more and more aggressive. General whose power reached the heavens, and the sixth prince was a member of the imperial family. These two people were not people the waiter could afford to offend. He could only run down to report to his manager. A moment later, a scholarly-looking middle-aged scholar, who was dressed even more elegantly than his appearance, walked over with quick steps. He first greeted the sixth prince and Miss Hu before walking to Ning Xiuema's tea table. He sized her up without batting an eyelid. Today, Ning Xiuema was wearing a light pink muslin dress, which made her small face look even more tender and tender. She looked like a pure and innocent child, so he did not take it to heart. He cupped his fist and said, "This young customer, I'm really sorry. Your tea set has already been ordered by someone, but the servant forgot about it and sent it to you. Now the original owner wants to take it back. Do you think you can let go of your tea set? I'll give you another pot of good tea as an apology." Ning Xiuema, Miss Hu's words, her small mouth. "Manager, this is your fault. I clearly heard that the customer over there didn't order this tea set in the beginning. How did it become that they had already ordered this tea set? Originally, I didn't care much about this tea set. If you'd told me the truth, I might have happily given it up. But now you're blatantly lying. You obviously think I'm a child who's easy to bully. I don't want to give up this tea set anymore." The manager was stunned. He had thought that she was easy to fool because of her young age and amiable appearance. Who would have thought that her words would be so sharp? An awkward expression appeared on his face. Before he could say anything, Hu Daichang heard the commotion and walked over. Chapter 36. Hu Daichang heard the commotion and walked over. She looked down at Ning Xiuema and said, "Oh, I was wondering who dared to steal my tea set. So it's you, the trash. Shopkeeper, you're in the wrong here. Your tea house is a place where high officials and nobles come. How can you let this kind of trash in?" The thick disdain in her tone was like aged vinegar, spreading to every corner of the tea house. Countless eyes looked over and fell on Ning Xiuema. There was suspicion, bewilderment, and confusion in their eyes. Ning Xiuema had become famous recently. Many people had seen her true face when she was carried through the streets in an iron cage. However, at that time, Ning Xiuema's hair was disheveled and her face was red and swollen. She was so embarrassed that it was almost impossible to recognize her human form. How could she be as fresh as now? It was no wonder that most people didn't recognize her. Hu Daichang saw everyone's gaze and became even more proud. "Everyone, she is Ning Xiuema from Marquis Ning Jingyuan's mansion who was caught stealing a man a few days ago. This kind of trash is actually drinking tea in the same tea house as us. Don't you think we should ask the shopkeeper to drive her out?" Everyone looked at each other. Ning Xiuema's incident a few days ago was well known throughout the city. They naturally knew about it. However, didn't it prove that Miss Ning was wrongly accused? Although everyone looked down on trash, seeing Hu Daichang so arrogantly bully a little girl made them look down on her. Most people didn't respond. Only a few people who wanted to flatter the sixth prince and Hu Daichang responded, "Yes, yes, drive her out. Drive her out. Such a person doesn't deserve to stay in this tea house. Get out quickly." Hu Daichang was flattered by these people and became even more proud. Her gaze fell on Ning Xuema's face again. She wanted to see her trembling in anger or being scared silly. However, she didn't expect that Ning Xuema was still sitting there calmly, playing with a cup of tea in her hand. She looked at her as if she was watching a monkey play. Such a gaze pierced Hu Daichang's heart. She said angrily, "Why are you looking at me like that? Feeling guilty?" Ning Xuema smiled and said softly, "Who are you calling a slut?" "Bitch, I'm talking about you," Hu Daichang replied without thinking. "As expected, the slut is talking about me." Ning Xuema's voice was crisp and clear, like a string of silver bells ringing. "Since you've admitted it yourself, then I won't say anything more about you. Take care of yourself and try to get rid of this word as soon as possible." Poochie. Haha. Someone in the tea house couldn't help but laugh. This little girl's counterattack was really ruthless. Hu Daichang finally reacted. Her pretty face flushed red, and she couldn't help but raise her hand to slap her. "You little bitch." Her movements were extremely fast, and her hand was like the wind. This time, she used her telekinesis and was determined to break Ning Xuema's white teeth. However, Ning Xuema only raised her hand slightly. Before Hu Daichang's palm could touch her, she suddenly screamed and hurriedly withdrew her hand. "It hurts. It hurts so much." Her palm felt like it had been stung by a wasp. It hurt so much that she wanted to stomp her feet. "Little bitch, you dare to plot against me?" Ning Xuemo raised her eyebrows. "Hu Daichang, what are you doing now? You were the one who wanted to hit me, okay? You're dead. You little bitch, you actually used needles to stab me. Carrot." Chapter 37. Where did I prick you with the needle? Show it to everyone. Hu Daichang raised the hand that was pricked as if she was raising a flag. "You slut, don't even think about denying it. You pricked my palm." When she opened her palm, she discovered that her palm was ruddy. Not to mention a needle mark, there wasn't even a red dot to be seen. Everyone's eyes were sharp. They looked at her palm and then back at her with suspicion in their eyes. Hu Daichang also discovered this abnormality. She withdrew her hand and looked at it in disbelief. She was stunned. Ning Xuema sighed softly and suddenly looked in the direction of the tea house not far away. "Sixth prince, your future princess consort was pricked. Aren't you going to come out and take a look? Show some concern?" The sixth prince's future princess consort. Everyone's eyes widened as they followed Ning Xuema's gaze. The sixth prince, Ji Yunhao, wanted to strangle Hu Daichang to death. He and Hu Daichang were not engaged yet. If this was exposed in advance, it would be detrimental to his reputation. After all, he had just broken off his engagement with Ning Xuema. However, since Ning Xuema had called him out, he could only brace himself and come out. His gaze fell on Ning Xuema and slightly narrowed. He hadn't seen her for more than 10 days, but this girl had become much more lively. Her once emaciated face was now much more tender. Her once excessively thin chin now had a perfect curve. Perhaps it was because of the hot weather, but her white cheeks had a faint blush. Her eyes were big and curved, and the black pupils inside were as black as ink and as pure as water. When she looked at people, she was like a calm lake, giving people an indescribable sense of tranquility. The wind from outside the window blew in, causing her pink clothes to flutter in the wind. She looked innocent, well-behaved, and completely harmless. Her appearance was clearly the same, but her temperament was very different from before. At such a young age, she seemed to have the power to captivate people's souls, making people unable to move their eyes away. Ji Yunhao calmed himself down and his face sank. He opened his mouth and reprimanded. "Ning Xuema, what nonsense are you talking about?" Ning Xuema blinked her eyes innocently. How could it be nonsense? "Sixth prince, this Miss Hu Daichang even has a child with you. Don't tell me you don't plan to marry her? Wasn't it because of her that you tried so hard to break off the engagement?" Shocking thunder. He had a baby. In other words, The sixth prince and Miss Hu Daichang didn't just get together these few days, but had been having an affair for a long time? Everyone's eyes became brighter and more subtle. Hu Diechang's pretty face flushed red. She was indeed pregnant, but it was only a little more than a month. She thought that she wouldn't show it, but she didn't expect Ning Xiuema to expose her. She couldn't help but feel ashamed and angry. Ning Xiuema, how dare you? How dare you make irresponsible remarks? Ji Yunhao was also stunned, and his handsome face turned even darker. In Chongkong country, regardless of whether the two parties were engaged or not, losing one's virginity before marriage was the most despicable act. One would be reviled by tens of thousands of people, even if the man had 3 wives and 4 concubines. If he had a relationship with an innocent girl without any status, he would also be despised by everyone. Ning Xiuema, do you know what kind of punishment you will receive for speaking nonsense? Ji Yunhao's voice was as cold as ice. Ning Xiuema's expression became even more innocent. I know, but I didn't speak nonsense. What I said was the truth. Miss Hu is clearly 45 days pregnant. She tilted her head slightly, causing the 2 buns on her head to sway slightly. She blinked her eyes and suddenly had a look of realization. Could it be that the baby in her belly isn't yours? Chapter 38. Hu Daichang, Ji Yunhao. Everyone. Hu Daichang was shocked and angry. Ning Xiuema was right about the pregnancy date. How did she know? The doctor who had taken her pulse had clearly been killed in time. Ning Xiuema, you dare to slander my reputation? I'm going to kill you. Hu Diechang's palm flashed, and a sword appeared. She swung it at Ning Xiuema. Ji Yunhao raised his hand to stop her, but he thought of something and his eyes flashed. He didn't make a move. However, Ning Xiuema was already prepared for this. Just as the sword was about to pierce her neck, she suddenly lowered her body, causing Hu Diechang's killing blow to hit nothing but air. Hu Daichang couldn't stop her sword and stabbed the red clay pot on the table. Pa! A crisp sound rang out, and the red clay pot shattered into pieces. 2 of the teacups were also broken. I am Miss Hu, are you angry out of humiliation? It doesn't matter if you get angry and break the shop's precious tea set, but don't get angry and harm your body. It won't be good if the baby is affected. Ning Xiuema's body spun around before she sat back down. She looked at Hu Daichang and spoke in a serious tone. Hu Daichang. She was about to go crazy. She was so angry that her lips were trembling. You still want to talk nonsense? Little slut, if I don't kill you today, I'm not human. Hu Daichang flicked her wrist, and the sword in her hand emitted a sword light that was about a foot long. It attacked Ning Xiuema like a storm. Ning Xiuema's body was like a willow in the wind as she dodged the sword light. There were several times when the sword light was about to hit her, but she dodged it by a hair's breadth. Seeing Hu Diechang's sword coming at her again, she let out a soft cry. The chair she was sitting on suddenly flipped over, and her body slid out like a fish, escaping the encirclement of Hu Diechang's sword. She slid past Hu Daichang like the wind. Hu Diechang's ankle seemed to have been stung by something. A thread of pain shot up from the stung area and into her abdomen. She was in so much pain that her face turned white. With a cry of pain, she threw away the sword and hugged her stomach. She bent over, and almost wanted to roll on the ground. Daichang, what's wrong? Ji Yunhao subconsciously supported her. Hu Daichang felt a warm current flowing out from the secret place between her legs. Was she really going to have a miscarriage? She was so scared that her face turned pale. She blurted out, our child is gone. The moment he said that, everyone in the hall fell silent. Really? It was actually real. Originally, they were still a little skeptical of Ning Xiuema's words, but now the evidence was irrefutable. Everyone looked at Hu Daichang with disdain. This stupid woman. Ji Yunhao cursed in his heart, but he couldn't do anything about it. He lowered his voice and said to Ning Xiuema, Good, you're ruthless enough. If anything happens to her, this prince won't let you off. Ning Xiuema also became angry. Ji Yunhao, Hu Daichang, the 2 of you secretly colluded with each other, and had an affair for a long time. In order to achieve your goal, you came to frame me, wanting to ruin my reputation. Fortunately, The heavens opened their eyes and allowed the chastity-testing beast to prove my innocence. Otherwise, I would have suffered an unjust injustice. I'm an orphan girl. My arms can't twist the thighs of you nobles. I also despise your conduct. That's why I did as you wished. I quickly broke off the engagement and let you, this adulterous pair, get what you wanted. You're still not satisfied and bully an orphan girl like me. Do you really think that there's no justice in this world? Do you really think that you can cover the sky with one hand? Everyone here can testify for me. She was clearly the one who provoked me. She slapped and chopped at me. It was as if she wanted to kill me to silence me. I didn't even fight back. She used up all her strength. What does it have to do with me if the fetus is affected? How can this be blamed on me? Chapter 39. Her big eyes were filled with tears. You shouldn't bully people like this, right? Hu Daichang, I used to treat you as a good friend. When I was 7 years old, you chased after me and called me big sister. You even said that although I was younger than you, my birthday was older than yours, so you should call me little big sister and respect me. You even said that you would always be my best friend, and call me little big sister. Is this how you treat little big sister? I always gave in to you and tolerated you. You stole my fiancé, but I didn't want to argue with you. You always bullied me, but I also gave in to you. I just wanted to settle things peacefully. Who would have thought that you would work together to scheme against me? Now you even want to threaten me and frame me. She clearly looked like she was about to cry, but her words were like exploding beans. She spoke quickly, but each word was clear. Every word was like a bullet, hitting people's hearts. So it was like this. So the truth was like this. Everyone suddenly understood. They looked at Ji Yunhao and Hu Daichang with even more disdain. Ji Yunhao's face was as black as the bottom of a pot. He was also a smart person. Although the matter of Ning Xiuema being wronged wasn't done by him, he could already guess who did it. Other than the woman in his arms, there was no one else, but he couldn't say it out loud. After all, he still had a use for her in the future. He still wanted to marry Hu Daichang and obtain Marshal Hu's support. Originally, he wanted to casually find a scapegoat to smooth over this matter. In any case, he could at least explain himself. However, he did not expect that Ning Xiuema would reveal the matter between him and Hu Daichang at this moment. Faintly, she also pinned the main culprit of that matter on him. Unfortunately, he still could not explain. The people drinking tea in this tea house were all famous people in the imperial city. He couldn't silence them one by one. His gaze fell on Ning Xiuema's body, and a cold light flashed through his eyes. He opened his mouth to say something, but Hu Daichang felt a warm flow down there. She didn't care about anything else and couldn't help grabbing his sleeve. Her voice trembled as she said, "Your Highness, save our child. I'm bleeding." Ji Yunhao subconsciously lowered his head and saw that Hu Daichang's skirt was wet. "What's that smell?" Someone muttered in a low voice and wrinkled his nose. "Why does it smell like urine?" Someone asked, fanning his nose in disgust. "Miss Hu, are you sure you're bleeding? Not urinary incontinence?" Ning Xiuema also took a step back, her little nose wrinkling slightly. However, he sneered in his heart. This ungrateful woman. At that time, Hu Daichang was also poor. Her father was seriously ill, and she was begging on the streets. She was molested by a lecher. Coincidentally, Ning Xiuema, who was 6 years old at the time, saw it and sent people to save her. The original owner of the body, Ning Xiuema, was kind-hearted. Seeing that Hu Daichang was pitiful, not only did she invite a doctor to treat her father's illness, but she also brought Hu Daichang and her father to Marquis Jing Yuan's mansion. It was because of this that Hu Daichang's father had the opportunity to climb up the social ladder. It was also because of this that Hu Daichang and her father were where they were today. At that time, Hu Daichang followed behind Ning Xiuema every day. She, a 13-year-old girl, chased after Ning Xiuema, a 7-year-old girl, and tried her best to curry favor with Ning Xiuema. However, she didn't expect that before Marquis Jing Yuan's mansion fell, Hu Daichang would always have a disdainful look on her face whenever she saw Ning Xiuema. She would often bully her openly and secretly, humiliate her in front of others, and even beat her up because of a small retort. Ning Xiuema was beaten black and blue and almost lost her life. Chapter 40. In order to snatch Ning Xiuema's fiancé, she had used all kinds of underhanded methods to kill Ning Xiuema. The reason why Ning Xiuema had been drugged and locked in an iron cage was all because of her. How could Ning Xiuema be polite to this kind of woman? She had purposely hit an acupuncture point on Hu Diechang's leg to make her lose control of her urine. At this time, she wouldn't let her have a miscarriage. However, the child in her belly would sooner or later become a stone fetus and stay in her belly forever. She would no longer have the ability to give birth. This was the justice that Ning Xiuema wanted for the original owner of this body. That girl couldn't die in vain like this. For a rich young miss to lose control of her urine in front of so many people was the most shameful thing. She had thrown her face all the way to the Pacific Ocean. Seeing that everyone was looking at her skirt, Hu Diechang had never been so embarrassed in her life. She even had the heart to dig a hole in the ground. Her pretty face was green and white, her chest was heaving up and down. Suddenly, she covered her face and cried. Ning Xiuema raised her eyebrows in confusion. It's just incontinence, not a real miscarriage. Why are you crying? Pa. A golden shadow flashed in the air and whipped towards Ning Xiuema. This golden shadow appeared too suddenly without any warning. By the time Ning Xiuema noticed it, it was already too late to dodge. She only managed to avoid the important part. The golden shadow whipped her back, causing her to stagger. Ning Xiuema quickly steadied herself and raised her head. She saw Ji Yunhao standing in front of her with a whip-shaped golden shadow flickering in his palm. Ning Xiuema apologized. Ning Xiuema's back felt like it had been stung by a hornet. She couldn't help but look back. She knew that her back was bleeding. Why? Ning Xiuema's fingers slowly clenched. Why did this bastard hit her? And under the watchful eyes of so many people. Based on the fact that I was once your fiancé, I have the right to teach you a lesson on behalf of your parents. The golden whip in Ji Yunhao's hand flashed again, and lashed towards Ning Xiuema's body. This time, Ning Xiuema was prepared. She instinctively wanted to use the mystifying steps that she had learned in the modern era. However, the moment she moved, the spot on her back that was hit suddenly stiffened. Following that, her legs went numb, and she was unable to move. She could only raise her arm to block at the critical moment. Ning Xiuema looked at her tattered sleeve. The skin under her sleeve had a reddish-purple color, and an intense pain accompanied by numbness and itchiness spread throughout her entire arm. Was there poison on his strange golden whip? It actually made it difficult for her to move. Ning Xiuema, this prince will say one more thing. Hurry up and apologize to Diechang. Ji Yunhao gripped his golden whip and took a step forward. He was like a jade-faced Azura, his baleful aura threatening. Your Highness, I don't want this slut's apology. Beat her to death. Beat her to death. Hu Diechang clamored from the side. Ning Xiuema retreated a step, but because her legs were weak, she tripped and fell to the ground with a thump. The surrounding people let out soft hissing sounds, but no one dared to step forward and meddle in this matter. Whether it was the Grand Marshal's daughter or the sixth prince, they were not people they could provoke. The more influential a person was, the more things they feared. There were already people who were afraid of being caught in the crossfire, and secretly went downstairs. Ning Xiuema's body was in intense pain, and she was unable to raise her body. She opened her eyes to look at Ji Yunhao's murderous eyes, and her heart turned cold. She had been too careless. She thought that these days she had already recovered 20 to 30% of her strength, and with her unfathomable qinggong, she would be able to protect herself from harm. She didn't expect that Ji Yunhao would actually use his psychokinesis to drive the soul-breaking whip to attack her in public. Chapter 41. She did not have any relatives or friends here. At this critical moment, she did not even have anyone to save her. Looking at Ji Yunhao's expression, even if she gave in and apologized to Hu Diechang, he would not let her go. He would definitely think of other ways to thoroughly humiliate her. Seeing that Ji Yunhao was about to whip her again, her lips slowly hooked into a sneer. Ji Yunhao, if I don't die, I will make you pay 10 times the price for today's whipping. Her gaze was too cold, causing Ji Yunhao's heart to turn cold. At the same time, there was also an inexplicable unwillingness and anger. This girl used to listen to everything he said. She used to secretly look at him. She used to secretly collect everything about him. Her heart used to be filled with him. Now, although she respectfully called him prince, she looked at him as if she was looking at smelly garbage. She no longer had any feelings for him. But at this time, she still shone brightly, only her brilliance did not bloom for him. Since it was like this, he might as well just kill her. At least her gaze did not stop for other men. He was the only one who was her fiancé. Even if he killed her now, it would at most be considered a mistake. His imperial father would not punish him for an orphan. At most, he would be fined a few years of his salary and locked up for a few days. He could also use the excuse of regret and compensation to take this little girl as a concubine. That way, she would still be his even after death. Countless calculations could be made in a flash. Ji Yunhao's eyes flashed with murderous intent. The strange golden whip in his hand suddenly became as thick as a gossamer. He raised his arm and the golden whip swam in the air like a snake, whipping towards Ning Xiuema's neck. Ning Xiuema's entire body was already numb with pain. Unable to dodge, she could only close her eyes. She did not expect that she would die here today. Hu Diechang's eyes flashed with crazy pride. She was very clear about the power of Ji Yunhao's whip. As long as it really hit Ning Xiuema, it would directly break her throat and kill her. Seeing that Ji Yunhao's whip was about to kiss Ning Xiuema's neck like a viper, a light blue radiance suddenly flashed in the air. In the blink of an eye, a protective shield formed in front of Ning Xiuema's body. Ji Yunhao's deadly whip hit the protective shield, causing it to ripple like water. Ji Yunhao's hand trembled, and the golden whip almost flew out of his hand. His expression changed as he took a step back. "Brother Crown Prince." A shadow flashed at the door as Ji Yunhuang slowly walked in. Today he was wearing a low-key yet gorgeous thin robe. He still wore that huge jade ring on his thumb, and the jasper on his waist was like a pool of flowing water. His gentle temperament carried an indescribable sense of nobility and indifference. "We pay our respects to Your Highness the Crown Prince." Everyone in the tea room knelt down, including Ji Yunhao. Hu Diechang's watery eyes flashed with a hint of complexity. She naturally followed suit and knelt down. However, in a gentle voice, she said a few more words. "Daichang pays her respects to Your Highness the Crown Prince. Your Highness the Crown Prince has graced us with his presence. Daichang did not kneel earlier to welcome you. Please forgive me." She was unable to continue speaking because the Crown Prince whom she had respectfully welcomed did not even look at her. He directly walked past her and bent down to help Ning Xiuema up from the ground. "Xiuema, how do you feel?" Chapter 42. Everyone was speechless. The Crown Prince, who had always liked cleanliness and could not bear to see anything that was not neat, would actually personally help a girl who had been whipped until she was covered in blood. Moreover, she was a girl who was called the number one trash? Hu Diechang's face turned pale again. Ji Yunhao's face was also ugly. How could his brother, who had always pursued perfection, be so nice to a trash? His gaze was fixed on Ji Yunhuang's hand that was supporting Ning Xiuema. His eyes were filled with uncertainty. When he saw Ji Yunhuang carrying Ning Xiuema, he paused and walked forward with a medicine bottle in his hand. A pill was rolling in the bottle. "Xiuema, this is for treating whip wounds. Actually, I did not mean to hit you. It's just that you dash." "It's just that what?" Ji Yunhuang interrupted. His voice was calm, but it shocked Ji Yunhao. He calmed himself down and coughed. Just as he was about to explain, Hu Daichang impatiently said, "Reporting to Your Highness, it's just that she was too arrogant. She even insulted the imperial family. She should be taught a lesson." Ji Yunhuang glanced at her and lightly said, "Who taught you these rules? How can a commoner like you interrupt when the Crown Prince is speaking?" Hu Daichang choked. Although she was the marshal's daughter, she did not have an official title. She was indeed a commoner. This Crown Prince seemed to have a good temper, but he was not lenient when he needed to. If someone really provoked him, even if it was the imperial uncle, he would still beat them up. The emperor had personally given him an imperial edict that gave him the right to act first and report later. Hu Daichang naturally did not dare to provoke him. Although she was unwilling, she still retreated. Ji Yunhao was also somewhat embarrassed. His hand was still stretched out, but Ning Xiuema did not even look at him. Of course, she did not have the intention to take the medicine bottle either. He sheepishly withdrew his hand and replied to Ji Yunhuang. Brother Wang, you don't know. Just now, Xiuema was spouting nonsense and slandering me and Miss Hu. I didn't want to see her continue making mistakes, so I taught her a lesson. Slander you? Ji Yunhuang smiled faintly. So you're saying that Miss Hu is not pregnant? This. Ji Yunhao paused for a moment. Just as he was about to clench his teeth and deny it, he suddenly saw the figure of an imperial physician among the surrounding guests. His crown prince brother was about to wave to that imperial physician. He took a deep breath and said in a low voice, Brother Wang, this is my fault. It was this younger brother who was unable to control his emotions that day and made a mistake. However, I will marry her. In these 2 days, this younger brother was going to ask Imperial Father for forgiveness, and ask Imperial Father to grant the marriage. Royal Brother, this matter implicates the royal family's decency. I beg Royal Brother to let it go for now. Ji Yunhuang's expression turned cold. No matter what, since this matter is true, then it can't be considered as Xiuema slandering you. Why did you act so ruthlessly to kill her? Little brother was just angry at the moment, and seeing that a little girl like her was speaking nonsense, I wanted to teach her a lesson. I didn't want to take her life. Just now it was just a slip of the hand. You are not her father or brother. What right do you have to teach her a lesson? Little brother, after all, little brother was once her fiancé. That's right, it was once. It was only once. Sixth brother, you have already broken off the engagement with her. She has nothing to do with you anymore. You don't have the right to meddle in her affairs anymore. Ji Yunhuang indifferently threw out these words. He carried Ning Xiuema and walked out. Ji Yunhao looked at Ning Xiuema obediently lying in Ji Yunhuang's arms. Chapter 43. Ji Yunhao looked at Ning Xiuema obediently lying in Ji Yunhuang's arms. He clenched his fists under his sleeves and his eyes darkened. He took 2 steps forward and said, Xiuema, this kind of whip wound can only be cured by my special medicine. You. Ning Xiuema lifted her small face from Ji Yunhuang's shoulder and opened her small hands towards Ji Yunhao. Did she just forgive him? She was willing to accept his medicine? Ji Yunhao was delighted and quickly handed the pill to her. Half of this pill should be applied externally, and the other half should be taken orally. Pooh. With a soft sound, the pill was crushed by Ning Xiuema and turned into powder. She opened her palm and blew on it. The powder flew out and almost landed on Ji Yunhao's face. Ji Yunhao was speechless. Ning Xiuema's thin lips slightly hooked up. Ji Yunhao, this time we're definitely enemies. I hope your skin is tough enough to withstand my counterattack. Ji Yunhao looked at her being carried by Ji Yunhuang into a low-key yet luxurious carriage. His heart inexplicably turned cold and he shivered. Your Highness. Hu Daichang walked over, and her voice was filled with unwillingness. Your Highness, are we just going to let this slut off like this? She still had the smell of urine on her. Ji Yunhao took 2 steps to the side and said indifferently, Daichang, you're still a noble lady. Calling this slut this and that, aren't you afraid that it will lower your status? He turned around and left with large strides. He suddenly felt some regret in his heart. It was as if he had picked up a sesame seed and lost a watermelon. Hu Daichang was choked by his words and her face turned red. She usually tried her best to pretend to be a virtuous lady in front of Ji Yunhao. Her voice was soft and gentle, and she had never said anything bad. But because she met Ning Xiuema, every time she saw this little girl, she would remember her lowly status in the past. She didn't want to think about how Ning Xiuema had given her a new lease of life back then. She only wanted to think about how her ugliest side had been exposed in front of that little girl. Every time she saw Ning Xiuema, she felt very uncomfortable. Only by ruthlessly trampling on Ning Xiuema could she feel better. That little slut, she was already as lowly as dust, but she actually made such a big fool of herself today. The grudge between her and her was set. If she didn't kill her, she wouldn't be human. She clenched her fists tightly, as if she was clenching Ning Xiuma's slender neck. "Xiuma, you shouldn't have destroyed that pill. After all, that was the only antidote for this whip wound." The luxurious carriage was spacious and well-equipped. Ning Xiuma was placed on a snow-white brocade quilt. The brocade quilt was as soft as the clouds, and Ning Xiuma was comfortable lying on it. Ji Yunhuang sat opposite her. Ning Xiuma lowered her head to check the wound on her arm. She faintly said, "I don't want that scum's things. I can make the antidote myself." She had the residue of the antidote on her hand, and she could smell its composition just by smelling it. Ji Yunhuang's eyes lit up. "You can actually make that kind of antidote." According to what he knew, the antidote for Ji Yunhao's soul-breaking whip was a secret of the imperial family. In this world, only the palace's secret pharmacist could make it. Moreover, he was the only one who knew the prescription. There were many doctors who wanted to get their hands on the prescription, but none of them had succeeded. This little girl only crushed an antidote pill, and she was able to make it? Ning Xiuma didn't answer him. She took the brocade handkerchief beside her and wiped her hands clean. She used her hand to support her chin and looked at Ji Yunhuang with a smile. Chapter 44. Ning Xiuma did not answer him. She took a handkerchief from the side and wiped her hands clean. She used her hand to support her chin and looked at Ji Yunhuang with a smile. "Your Highness, are you interested in the antidote? Why don't I tell you the method to refine the antidote as a reward for saving my life?" Ji Yunhuang's eyes flashed and he smiled slightly. This prince is not interested in the antidote. As long as Miss can refine the antidote to cure the poison in your body, it will be fine. He already had a faint understanding of this little fox's temperament. She seemed to be cunning, but she was someone who clearly distinguished between gratitude and grudges. She would repay kindness and hatred and did not like to owe people favors. Therefore, it was better for her to owe him a favor. Boring. Feeling bored, Ning Xiuma turned over. However, she forgot about her injuries for a moment. This movement affected the wounds on her body, causing her to hiss lightly. She pursed her lips and endured the pain. Beads of sweat appeared on her forehead. Ji Yunhuang looked at her slightly pale face. He knew the pain of this kind of whip wound. Even a 7-foot-tall man would be in so much pain that he could not help but groan. This little girl could actually endure it and not make a sound. She could even laugh out loud. What kind of living environment could force her to endure this kind of pain? He had already investigated the matters in Marquis Ning Jingyuan's residence. He knew that Ning Xiuma had lived a difficult life these past few years, and was often bullied by others. He was not surprised that she could endure hardships, but to be able to endure pain, it was somewhat out of his expectations. It made him admire her in his heart. Originally, he was only interested in her medical skills and her strange qigong, but now he was interested in her as a person. Seeing her pursing her pale lips to endure the pain, he actually felt a kind of heartache. Heartache? Ji Yunhuang was secretly shocked. Even he felt heartache? He was a rare genius. No matter what he learned, he was able to learn it quickly. However, he had a flaw. He did not have any feelings. Although he looked as gentle as jade, he was indifferent to everyone. That year, when his mother, who loved him dearly, passed away, he did not feel any heartache or pain. His imperial father said that he was born to be a ruler. A ruler should be emotionless and should not be influenced by feelings. Only then could he be iron-blooded and just. Only then could he be a good ruler. However, he still had some regrets in his heart. He didn't expect that he would have this kind of feeling after seeing Ning Xiuma today. This kind of feeling was unavoidably novel to him. He looked at Ning Xiuma in a daze. Ning Xiuma thought that no matter how painful the whip wound was, it would only hurt for a while. As long as she could endure it, she would be fine. However, she did not expect that after an hour had passed, the pain from the whip did not lessen. Instead, it seemed to have worsened, causing her to be unable to rest in peace. Ji Yunhuang watched as more and more sweat appeared on her forehead. He seemed to have thought of something and said, "That's right, I forgot to tell you. If you don't use the special antidote for this kind of whip wound, it will continue to hurt and will never stop." Ning Xiuma. F***ck. Why didn't you say so earlier? No wonder when she crushed that pill and blew it all over that scumbag Ji Yunhao's face, that guy was still so calm and collected. He had an expression that said he was certain she would go back and beg him. So it was because of this. If she had known earlier, she would have taken his antidote first to relieve the pain. When the whip wound was healed, she would have gone to beat him until his face was full of peach blossoms. That way, she would have been able to vent the anger in her heart instead of seeking a momentary satisfaction. Could it be that she had to continue to be in pain while concocting the antidote? Damn it. She was in so much pain that she wanted to beat someone up. She simply could not calm her heart down. Chapter 45. Ji Yunhuang looked at her wrinkled little face, and guess what she was thinking? Why don't you follow me back to the Crown Prince's residence first? I'll send someone to ask Sixth Brother for the antidote. No one would refuse to give face to the Crown Prince, especially Ji Yunhao. This was not a bad idea. She was in so much pain that she was sweating all over. If she did not endure it, her fingers would be trembling. It would be extremely difficult for her to concoct the antidote in this state. Ning Xuemo nodded. I'll have to trouble your highness. Although she said those words calmly, her lips were already trembling. Ji Yunhuang looked at her for a moment, and lifted his sleeve to wipe away the sweat on her forehead. You're still a child. If you're in pain, you should shout it out. Even if you cry, why do you have to endure it? Ning Xuemo stared blankly for a moment. In her previous life, she had been trained to endure pain. Therefore, although she often acted cute and killed people, she almost never cried. No matter how painful it was, she would quietly endure it. After enduring it for so long, she almost forgot what it felt like to cry. In her mind, crying was a sign of cowardice. Unless it was to prevent other people from crying. Ji Yunhuang's words made her heart feel warm. This crown prince, no matter what reason he had for being good to her, he was still concerned about her. She curled her lips and smiled, revealing 2 dimples on her cheeks. Many thanks for your highness' concern, but I don't want to cry. She wanted to beat Ji Yunhao into a pig's head even more. Ji Yunhuang bent his finger and lightly flicked her forehead. You don't mean what you say. Why are you so stubborn? This action was unavoidably too intimate. All the hairs on Ning Xuemo's body stood erect. She calmly moved backwards. Although Ji Yunhuang did not return to Chongkong country often, his residence was still the most majestic among all the prince's residences. Of course, compared to Ning Xuemo's Marquis Jingyuan's residence, it was much more superior. The carriage drove straight in. Ning Xuemo could not see the interior of the crown prince's residence from inside the carriage, but she could hear the sound of people kneeling and greeting. She could imagine the size of the residence. After the carriage entered the mansion, it continued to move forward for a full quarter of an hour before stopping. Welcome back, Your Highness the Crown Prince. A chorus of greetings came from outside. From the sound of it, there were at least 100 people. Xuemo, it's not convenient for you to move right now. This prince will carry you down. Ji Yunhuang didn't give her any chance to protest, and carried her in his arms. A servant respectfully lifted the curtain of the sedan. Ji Yunhuang carried Ning Xuemo and walked out of the sedan in large strides. There were 2 rows of people kneeling below. One row was made up of maids, and the other row was made up of servants. The one leading them was a butler in luxurious clothes. Ning Xuemo lay in Ji Yunhuang's embrace, and she could feel countless gazes on her body. She didn't need to look to know that those gazes were filled with shock and astonishment. Who asked their crown prince to carry a legendary piece of trash in his arms? But she did not hear the low hiss of surprise in the tea house. It seemed that the rules of the crown prince's residence were pretty good. Her body was in unbearable pain, and she really could not stand on her own. She simply laid her head on his chest and waited for him to carry her in. In any case, he had already carried her in the tea house. Since it was an emergency, carrying once was carrying twice was also carrying. She was a modern person, so she did not care about this. Ning Xuemo heard Ji Yunhuang instructing the servants. She knew that he would not harm her at this time, so she was too lazy to listen. Your Highness, let us servants carry this young lady? For maids carried a spring stool over, wanting to take Ning Xiuma from Ji Yunhuang's arms. Chapter 46. No need. Ji Yunhuang did not even look at the bench as he carried Ning Xiuma and walked in. Everyone looked at Ji Yunhuang's back, and were so shocked that their jaws almost fell to the ground. The crown prince, who had never been close to women, personally carried a young girl back. What was even more shocking was that he actually carried the young girl back to his own palace. The crown prince's palace. Didn't he never allow any women to enter? What kind of sacred being was this girl? Countless people looked at Mochi, the personal shadow guard who followed the crown prince out today. Mochi's handsome face did not have any expression. He was not a gossipy person, especially when it came to the crown prince. It was not something he could spread around. He turned around and disappeared. He was a shadow guard, and would not easily show himself. If it was not for the fact that the crown prince needed him to drive the carriage, he would not have shown himself. Ning Xiuma did not know that the room she was currently sleeping in was Ji Yunhuang's sleeping quarters. She laid on the soft, fragrant blanket and inadvertently swept her eyes over the room's decorations. For words popped up in her mind. Taste immortal qi. The room was mainly decorated in black and white. There was an ink landscape painting on the bed curtains and a black and white marble screen. There was a marble bonsai on the white jade table. There was a mist rising from the bonsai. The mist was quiet and the fragrance was far away, making people feel relaxed and happy. Ning Xiuma lightly breathed in. This fragrance was not bad. It actually had an analgesic effect. As she laid here, the pain from the whip wounds on her body seemed to have lessened. Ning Xiuma casually looked around and knew that although the things in the room looked ordinary, they were not cheap. She could not find them in the market. Xiuma, you should stay here for now. The person who went to the sixth prince's palace to ask for the antidote will be back soon. Ji Yunhuang tucked her in. Today, the crown prince was not just gentle to her. Ning Xiuma coughed. Thank you, crown prince. She looked around the room again, and sincerely praised. I did not expect that a guest room could be decorated so elegantly. As expected of the crown prince's palace, it's really rich. Ji Yunhuang slightly paused and coughed. This is my palace. Ah. Ning Xiuma widened her eyes. There's a refreshing fragrance here that can alleviate your pain. Ji Yunhuang continued to explain. So that was how it was. Ning Xiuma glanced at the marble bonsai on the long table. It turned out that it was actually a kind of strange fragrance. However, if he arranged for her to stay in the guest room, he could also move the bonsai there, right? You can't touch this bonsai. Ji Yunhuang was an understanding person, so he explained. Ning Xiuma understood and nodded. Thank you very much. This crown prince was really warm-hearted. Even his sleeping quarters were given to her. Ji Yunhuang suddenly extended his finger and lightly tapped her head. You don't have to think too much. You're still a child. What can I do to you? Don't worry. Ning Xiuma. Big brother, I didn't think too much about it. Your Highness, the sixth prince requests an audience. A guard reported from outside. Ji Yunhuang slightly frowned. He had only sent someone to ask Ji Yunhao for the antidote. Why did Ji Yunhao personally come? Xiuma, you rest here first. This prince will go out and take a look. He walked out in large strides. In the living room, Ji Yunhao sat in the guest seat while a maid served him tea. Ji Yunhao tried to ask, where is His Highness the Crown Prince? Sixth Prince, please wait. Someone has already gone to report. Chapter 47. Sixth Prince, please wait a moment. Someone has already gone to report. The maids in the Crown Prince's residence were all shrewd. They did not directly answer Ji Yunhao's question. Ji Yunhao smiled faintly. While receiving the tea, he touched the maid's hand. With a flip of his wrist, a round bead was placed in the maid's palm. In a soft voice he said, Many thanks, Mississippi. This prince admires Mrs. Pure Heart. The maid was slightly startled and her face turned red. Ji Yunhao's appearance was handsome, and when he smiled his eyes were extremely captivating, causing her young maiden's heart to involuntarily skip a beat. She calmly withdrew her small hand, and the pearl in her palm had already been transferred to her sleeve. His Highness and the new girl are in the palace. They should be here soon. The maid added. Ji Yunhao's fingers that were holding the teacup tightened. His older brother the crown prince actually arranged for Ning Xiuema to be in his palace. Why? What was his older brother the crown prince planning? He felt even more uncomfortable, as if he was sitting on pins and needles. He wished he could immediately get up and rush to Ji Yunhuang's palace. While he was fidgeting, the sound of light and heavy footsteps could be heard at the door. Old Six, why did you come here personally? Ji Yunhuang appeared and walked in. Ji Yunhao stood up and bowed. Third brother. Ji Yunhuang waved his hand. There is no need for such formalities in our own home. You can just give the antidote to my imperial bodyguard. Why did you come here personally? Little brother hurt her. I couldn't bear it, so I came to see how she is. How is she? It's not like you don't know the effects of your whip. Old Six, it's not that I want to criticize you, but how could you be so ruthless towards a little girl? Little brother was so angry at that time that I became muddle-headed. In a moment of anger, little brother knows his mistake. Ji Yunhao lowered his head. His soul-breaking whip was a magic tool. It was one of the top 5 weapons in Chongkong country. Not only could it injure the body, it could also injure the soul. It could make people feel as if their soul was being torn apart. Ji Yunhao's temper was not good. His whip had injured countless people who disobeyed him. He would usually wait for people to be in so much pain that they were hovering between life and death. Then he would decide whether to give the antidote based on that person's attitude. Even the most rebellious of men would be docile after he had whipped them once. Because if he angered him again and got whipped a second time, it would hurt even more and the pain would last longer. Of course, there were also those who were born stubborn and refused to admit their mistakes and died from the pain. He whipped Ning Xiuema in the tea house because he was angry and wanted to teach her a lesson. Secondly, he wanted her to completely bow down to him and listen to his every word. If she listened to him in the future, he could even take her in as a concubine. Initially, he couldn't wait to kick this girl far away and stop pestering him. But now, he didn't want her to fall into someone else's hands and blossom beside someone else. His calculations were not bad, but he never thought that he would meet Ji Yunhuang there. What was even more unexpected was that the crown prince would personally carry someone away. This made him feel a sense of crisis. Ji Yunhuang faintly glanced at him and saw through his thoughts. However, he was too lazy to expose him. He stretched out his hand and said, "Give me the antidote." Ji Yunhuang's appearance was gentle, but his aura was strong. Ji Yunhao did not dare to disobey, and could only take out a porcelain bottle. He was still unwilling to give up. This antidote is a little special. Why don't you let little brother personally apply the antidote? Chapter 48. All these years, you used the soul-breaking whip to injure a total of 1248 people. Did you personally apply the medicine on all of them? Ji Yunhuang's voice was neither warm nor angry, but it made Ji Yunhao break out in cold sweat. He did not expect that his elder brother, who did not seem to care about worldly affairs, would actually investigate him so thoroughly. He awkwardly handed the porcelain bottle to Ji Yunhuang. Younger brother was just thinking that since she is younger brother's fiancée, it would be unreasonable for others to apply medicine on her. You and her have already broken off the engagement. You no longer have anything to do with her. Ji Yunhuang took the medicine and turned to leave. Third brother, younger brother has something to say, but I don't know if I should say it. Ji Yunhao did not give up. Since you don't know if you should say it, then don't say it. Ji Yunhuang was too lazy to talk nonsense with him and walked out in large strides. Third brother, after all, she was once engaged to me. Even if the engagement was broken off, it could not cover up this fact. If third brother still has any thoughts about her, I'm afraid you will be ridiculed by the common people. Ji Yunhao simply said it all in one breath. Ji Yunhuang slowly turned around, his handsome face unable to discern whether he was happy or angry. What thoughts does this prince have towards her? Ji Yunhao choked, but his heart relaxed. Listening to his third brother's tone, It seemed that he did not have any thoughts about that girl. He bowed and said, "Younger brother misspoke. With third brother's prestige, how could you have any thoughts about that little girl? The maids in third brother's residence are also more noble than her." "Oh, that's right, third brother. I know that you only pity her, but arranging for her to recuperate in your palace is still somewhat inappropriate. I thought that you would casually give her a guest room." He had not finished speaking when Ji Yunhuang interrupted him. "Do I need you to teach me how to arrange her?" Ji Yunhao choked on his words. Ji Yunhuang's gaze swept across the hall and he said indifferently, "Who was the talkative one?" There were a total of 4 maids in the hall. Hearing his words, they all knelt down. The maid serving tea was so frightened that her soul almost left her body. Her body trembled. "If one of you does not confess, all of you will be punished." Ji Yunhuang said 8 more words. The other 3 made 6 pairs of eyes simultaneously looked at the maid serving tea. The maidservant knew that she couldn't escape, so she knelt down and begged for mercy. "Your Highness, please calm down. It was a slip of the tongue. I know my mistake." Ji Yunhuang extended his hand towards Ji Yunhao. Soul-breaking whip. Ji Yunhao didn't dare to refuse, and could only hand over the golden whip to Ji Yunhuang. Pa! Pa! As the golden light flickered, 3 bloody whip marks appeared on the maidservant's body. The maid rolled on the ground in pain and couldn't help but wail. Her mournful screams made the others tremble in fear. They lay on the ground and didn't dare to raise their heads. Ji Yunhuang threw the whip to Ji Yunhao. "Old 6, she was punished because of you. You can give her the antidote, but after giving her the antidote, don't call me your brother anymore." He turned around and strode out the door. Just as he was about to reach the door, he turned around and said indifferently, "She is the daughter of the late Marquis Jingyuan. She deserves everyone's respect. Don't compare her to a maid." With that last sentence, he had already disappeared. Ji Yunhao was left out in the cold. He felt rather awkward and his handsome face turned red. The maid who was beaten had already fainted from the pain. She desperately crawled to his feet and pulled on his robe. "Your Highness, please save me. Please give me the antidote." Ji Yunhao kicked her away in disgust and said to the housekeeper at the door, "I will take my leave now. Please say goodbye to His Highness the Crown Prince." Chapter 49. The housekeeper naturally replied with a few polite words and sent Ji Yunhao away. The maid was still rolling on the ground, screaming in pain until her voice was hoarse. "Someone come throw her out." The housekeeper ordered someone to drag the maid out like a dead dog. Although the maid was still alive, she could only die from the pain without any antidote. With the previous example, the other maids in the Crown Prince's residence became more cautious and conscientious. In the future, no one dared to say a word. Ning Xuema's injuries were on her back, arms, and shoulders. The injuries on her arms and shoulders were easy to deal with, but the injuries on her back needed help. Furthermore, she had to take off her clothes. Ning Xuema took the medicine bottle and looked at Ji Yunhuang, who was sitting beside her with a calm expression. "Your Highness, are you not going out for a walk?" Ji Yunhuang smiled. "This prince has finished all his official business, so I don't need to go out for a walk." He did it on purpose, right? Ning Xuema secretly gritted her teeth. "I'm going to apply the medicine." "And go ahead, Ning Xuema. Then I'll have to trouble your Highness to call a maid to apply the medicine on my back. This prince has never allowed any woman to enter this palace. At most, only the shadow guards can enter. You want him to apply the medicine for you?" Ji Yunhuang raised his eyebrows. "Ning Xuema. Your Highness, there are always exceptions. I'm also a girl, so didn't I come in? Since your Highness has already made an exception once, why not make another one?" "Yes, yes." Ji Yunhuang glanced at her. "If there is a first, there will be a second. If there is a second, there will be a third. Therefore, this prince has decided that in order to not make a third exception, I will not make a second exception. You will be this prince's one and only exception. One and only your head." Ning Xuemo really did not understand why this prince insisted on applying the medicine for her personally. His perverted nature was acting up. Did he want to take advantage of her? However, her current body had neither breasts nor buttocks. What was there to see? What's more, the crown prince's residence was filled with beauties. He only needed to wave his hand, and there would be a large number of beauties willing to offer themselves to sleep with him. Why would he deliberately look at a young loli who had not yet grown up? Was the crown prince a lolicon? Ning Xiaoma looked at Ji Yunhuang with a trace of suspicion in her eyes. Ji Yunhuang raised his hand and wanted to knock her head again. Why are you looking at me like that? If this prince wanted to do something to you, would this prince still need to borrow you to treat your injuries and take advantage of you? That was true, Ning Xiaoma blurted out. Then why did you have to treat me personally? Ji Yunhuang said. First, this king's rules cannot be broken. Secondly, I don't want to see you leave a glaring scar at such a young age. The scars left behind by the soul-beating whip cannot be removed with the antidote alone. It must be accompanied by my unique healing technique. So it was like that. Ning Xiaoma naturally did not want to leave a scar. Although she had her own methods to remove scars, it would be good to see the unique healing techniques of this era. Her temperament was straightforward. She immediately took off her clothes and lay down. Of course, she used her clothes to cover her front, only revealing her bare back and arms. Your Highness, please. Ji Yunhuang was speechless. She was too straightforward. This girl was really not a normal kind of straightforward. She was like a completely different person from the legends. After all, she was only a 13-year-old girl. Coupled with the fact that she was malnourished, her body had not yet developed. On her thin and weak back, there was a scarlet red whip scar that looked like a large centipede lying there. It was extremely ugly. Ning Xiaoma was lying there and did not see Ji Yunhuang's sharp eagle eyes, which stopped at her back. There was a light red birthmark there. The birthmark was in the shape of a pagoda, which looked a little strange. Chapter 50. Ji Yunhuang's finger lightly touched the birthmark on her back, and a glimmer of light flashed through his eyes. She was not an imposter. She was the real Ning Xiaoma. 12 years ago, he had accidentally seen her when she was a baby. He had seen her birthmark and had even touched it out of curiosity. Other things were easy to impersonate, but not this. Moreover, other than her parents and him, there was probably no one else who knew about her birthmark. He was afraid that even this little girl herself did not know about it. He dissolved the remaining half of the pill in water and used his fingertips to smear it inch by inch on her wounds. Ning Xiaoma felt as if there was an electric current flowing through his fingertips. The pain in the places that he had passed through immediately disappeared. After a slight warmth, there was a cooling sensation, followed by a slight itch. Ning Xiaoma had been injured many times in her previous life, so she naturally knew what it felt like to have a wound heal. It was no different from the feeling she had now, and her recovery speed was even faster than in the modern world. It seemed like this crown prince's unique healing technique was also very brilliant. Very quickly, he finished smearing the medicine on her back. Seeing that he seemed to have the intention to stop, Ning Xiaoma hurriedly moved her arm towards his direction. I'll have to trouble you to treat the wounds on my arm and shoulder as well. Ji Yunhuang's chuckle came from behind her. Didn't you not want this prince to treat your wounds? Your Highness said that if there is a first time, there will be a second time. Since your Highness has already treated this commoner's back, then it doesn't matter if you treat a few more places. Good deeds must be done to the end. Ning Xiaoma's pain lessened, and her voice also became clearer. You really know how to climb up the pole. Ji Yunhuang's voice sounded like he was laughing yet not laughing. It sounded like he was sighing and probing. If you were this quick-witted from the start, would you have been bullied? Now you seem like a completely different person. Could it be that he was suspicious of her identity? Your Highness should have heard of the saying, put yourself on the brink of death, right? I'm someone who has died once, so naturally, I'm more open-minded. It's reasonable for my temperament to change. It's possible for temperament to change. But you suddenly gained some skills, which is quite surprising. Hee. Perhaps the heavens saw that I had suffered too much humiliation and specially compensated me by bestowing me with so many abilities, allowing me to turn over a new leaf. Ji Yunhuang. Ning Xiaoma answered every question, and her answers were flawless. Even someone as astute as Ji Yinhuang could not find any loopholes in her answers. He couldn't help but sigh. He didn't ask any more questions and focused on treating the whip wounds on her arms and shoulders. Ning Xuema watched his movements attentively. She saw that there was a faint green light emitting from his fingertips as he applied the medicine to her wound. Under the green light, her wound felt cool. Could this be the art of rejuvenation, that only those who cultivated the wood elemental psychokinesis could learn? Previously, he had only seen it in the game. Now he could finally see it in real life. Psychokinesis, what a magical thing. Was there really nothing on her body? This was the first time that Ning Xuema was curious about psychokinesis since she had traveled to this world. Very quickly, Ji Yinhuang finished treating her injuries. Ji Yinhuang helped her bandage her wounds and instructed her to take note of a few things for the next few days. Only then did he get up to wash his hands. Ning Xuema looked at his slender back and her heart suddenly moved. No matter what, this crown prince treated her quite well. He was also a genius in psychokinesis, so he must have some books on cultivating psychokinesis. She thought for a moment and decided to ask him for it. Ji Yinhuang was rather surprised. Aren't you a psychokinesis trash? Even if you can't cultivate by reading these books, it's useless. Chapter 51. He turned around and looked at Ning Xuema. Seeing her pair of big eyes that were full of spirit, sparkling under the candlelight, he suddenly thought of something. Xuema, do you want to take the test again? Perhaps after this big change, God not only gave you some skills, but also changed your trash body? Ning Xuema's eyes lit up. Okay. She had been unhappy with her trash body for a long time. What if there was a problem with the machine when she was young? That's good. You should rest here today. I'll take you there tomorrow. Ning Xuema raised her head and looked outside the window. Outside the window, the sky was filled with red clouds. It was already evening. She couldn't lie down anymore, so she lifted the quilt and sat up. Why don't we go now? Ji Yinhuang sighed. You're too impatient. Your injuries haven't healed yet, and you're still weak. Even if we wanted to test you, we wouldn't be able to tell. It's better for you to rest for a night and recover your energy before going. Ning Xuema's eyes looked around the room. In such a big room, there was only one bed. She probed. Your Highness, where are you going to sleep tonight? Ji Yinhuang looked at her with a smile that wasn't a smile. You want to invite me to sleep together? Invite your head. Your Highness really knows how to joke. This joke isn't funny at all. Your Highness must have many palaces. There must be beauties in those palaces who want to invite your Highness to sleep together. I'll have to trouble your Highness to help me close the door when you leave. Ning Xuema laid down on her side and closed her eyes. She had used up a lot of energy today and was tired. This prince doesn't have any beauties and only has one palace. Ji Yinhuang slowly opened his mouth. Ning Xuema opened her eyes in astonishment. This crown prince should be around 21 or 22 years old. According to the customs of this era, even if he didn't have a wife, he should have several concubines. At the very least, he should have several concubines. How could he still be single? Could it be he was gay? She couldn't help but size him up. His appearance was handsome and elegant, but his temperament was cold and his aura was strong. Could it be that he was two-faced? What kind of attitude does this era have towards romantic love? Or was he seen as a scourge? Or should I just let it be? She tried her best to search through the memories of this body, but there was no such information at all. Ji Yinhuang was a little scared by her gaze. Little girl, why are you looking at this prince like that? Ning Xuema asked tentatively. Your Highness, what do you think about sex? What was that? Ji Yinhuang expressed that he did not understand. Ning Xuema explained. A prostitute is a delicate and pretty young man raised by the sons of officials. Seeing that Ji Yinhuang was still at a loss, she might as well explain. A prostitute is a man who can be used to warm the bed. Ji Yinhuang's face was filled with disgust. Men can warm the bed. What kind of nonsense is in that little head of yours? Don't tell me the soul-beating whip has turned you stupid? He reached out to touch her forehead. You don't have a fever. Ning Xuema was speechless. No wonder she didn't have any memories of being gay. It turns out that this continent doesn't have gay people. It seems like this crown prince doesn't like men. Oh, it seems like he's clean. In this era where stallions are everywhere, such a clean man is more precious than a giant panda. Ning Xuema looked at him with a gaze filled with respect. She cupped her hands and said, "It was Xuema who misunderstood Your Highness. Your Highness, please forgive me." Chapter 52. It's fine. Ji Yunhuang casually replied. After he replied, he was a little puzzled. What did she misunderstand about him? Then Your Highness must be sleeping in the guest room tonight? Your Highness is so benevolent and righteous. Xuema really has no way to repay you. Ning Xuema did not give him the chance to flatter him before she shut her mouth. She stared in astonishment at the rope that flew out from Ji Yunhuang's sleeve and tied it to the two pillars. Your Highness, what is the meaning of this? Ji Yunhuang's body floated up and lay down on the rope. The rope swayed slightly and his clothes fluttered lightly. It looked as if he was lying down in the air. Tonight, this prince will sleep here. Little dragon girl. No, little dragon man. Heavens, could it be that this prince is the successor of the ancient tomb sect? I heard that he is a disciple of the world's #1 sect. Could it be that the world's #1 sect is actually a branch of the ancient tomb sect? Your Highness, does your Sun Moon Divine sect sleep like this? Ji Yunhuang turned slightly on the rope. Little girl, you are talking nonsense. What Sun Moon Divine sect? It's the Sun Moon Divine sect. Ning Xuemo rubbed her nose. Fine, she automatically remembered the Sun Moon Divine sect as Dongfang Bubai's Sun Moon Divine sect. However, with such a divine way and such a flashy style, it should be similar to the Sun Moon Divine sect, right? Only she did not know if their sect leader, the ancestor, was also as ecstatic as Dongfang Bubai. At this moment, Ning Xuema's thoughts had already drifted 8,000 li away. She only heard Ji Yunhuang continue. This kind of resting method is only used by the Sun Moon Divine sect's direct descendants. Furthermore, the deeper one's cultivation, the thinner the rope they sleep on. Just like my master, the rope he sleeps on is only as thick as a pinky finger. Ning Xuema looked at the rope under Ji Yunhuang's body, which was as thick as half a fist. She once again blurted out. Your master is the ancestor's disciple, right? If he sleeps on a rope as thick as a pinky finger, then doesn't that mean your master, the ancestor, sleeps on a rope as thick as a thread? Black lines appeared on Ji Yunhuang's face. He chuckled softly. No one has ever seen the ancestor's appearance when he is resting. Ning Xuema was curious. Really? Could it be that his disciples and maids who served him have never seen him before? Ji Yunhuang lowered his eyes. No one has seen it. In fact, where the ancestor sleeps at night has always been an unsolved mystery. Ning Xuema. Mysterious indeed. Could this be the legendary saying of a crafty rabbit having 3 burrows? This venerable emperor seems to be quite paranoid. He doesn't trust anyone. Or maybe he was just trying to show off. Your Highness, doesn't your ancestor have white hair and a youthful complexion? He has the demeanor of a transcendent being. It was a pity that she didn't even get to see a corner of his robe. She felt a little regretful that she had missed the chance to meet the most eye-catching person in the world. Therefore, it was not a bad idea to ask someone who knew the situation. Ji Yunhuang sighed. Xuema, has no one ever told you that you can't casually discuss the ancestors' matters? Ning Xuemo rubbed her nose again. There seemed to be such a thing. She smiled. There are only the 2 of us here. It shouldn't be a problem to talk about it a little, right? Besides, you are his direct disciple, so you should have seen him a few times. Why don't you tell me a little about him? Her pair of big eyes twinkled. Her appearance was very lovable. Ji Yunhuang's heart skipped a beat. He finally said a few words. I have been in the Sun Moon sect for so long, but I have only seen the ancestor twice. The ancestor wears a mask all year round, so no one knows what he looks like. However, his hair is quite black like a curtain. There is indeed no one who has the demeanor of a transcendent being like him. He is not someone ordinary people can compare to. Chapter 53. At this point, he stopped talking and did not want to talk about the ancestor anymore. It was obvious that he worshipped this master from the bottom of his heart. Ning Xuema smiled and did not say anything, but her heart did not agree. This ancestor should not be young anymore. He must be a wily old fox in Jianghu, so he should know what to do in order to be mysterious. It seemed that his technique was not that strong, otherwise he would not have failed to maintain his appearance and only managed to keep his hair black. The face under that mask must have been filled with wrinkles, so wrinkled that even flies could be caught in them. Ah, Xuema, what are you thinking? Ji Yanhuang asked. He felt that her expression was a little strange. Ah, nothing. Ning Xuema naturally would not tell him her inner thoughts. She turned over and got off the bed. Xuema's injuries are almost healed, so I should go home and rest. I won't disturb His Highness the Crown Prince any longer. Goodbye, goodbye. She cupped her hands towards Ji Yanhuang and turned to leave. If she really slept in the same room as the Crown Prince tonight, even if nothing happened, she would not be able to clear her name. According to the rules of this era, she could only marry the Crown Prince as his wife or concubine. Although she did not care much about the rules of this era, she still did not want to add unnecessary trouble. As she walked, the whip wounds on her body began to hurt again. The wounds that had just healed felt like they were going to split open again. Her forehead was covered in sweat. Ji Yanhuang naturally knew what she was worried about. His eyes darkened slightly. This little girl did not seem to care about being his woman at all. Did she know what she was giving up by leaving? He turned over and got off the bed. He raised his hand and a faint white light was emitted. Ning Xuema's body became numb, and she lay back down on the bed. You can't move right now. You must rest for the night. Tonight, I will sleep outside and will not affect your reputation. Tomorrow morning, I will come and call you. With a wave of his sleeve, he put away the rope and walked out. A moment later, the voices of two maids came from outside the bedroom. His Highness ordered us to serve Miss Ning. If Miss Ning needs anything, please tell us. Ning Xuema's acupoints were sealed, so she couldn't move for a while. Fortunately, she could still speak. She asked casually, "Where is His Highness the Crown Prince?" His Highness has left the residence and will be back tomorrow morning. His Highness would rather sleep outside than in his own guest room? He was truly a freak. What Ning Xuema didn't know was that the Crown Prince had a huge obsession with choosing his room. He always slept in a fixed place, otherwise he wouldn't be able to fall asleep. Fifth Prince Mansion. The fifth prince, Ji Yunxiao, was a very regular prince. Every day he would go to bed to rest, but tonight he couldn't sleep. This was because his third brother, the Crown Prince Ji Yanhuang, had suddenly paid him a visit and insisted on playing a few games of chess with him. Among all the princes, only Ji Yunxiao's chess skills were comparable to the Crown Prince's. Thus, the two brothers had a lot of fun playing chess in the octagonal pavilion. Although Ji Yunxiao was an idle prince, he still had a lot of eyes and ears, so he was able to get information quickly. Tonight, Ji Yanhuang seemed to be a little absent-minded. Occasionally he would make a wrong move, which was very different from his usual style of chess. Ji Yunxiao teased him. Third brother, this little brother heard a new interesting news today. I heard that you gave old Six the show of strength at the tea house and even brought his little wife to your house. Is that true? Chapter 54. Ji Yanhuang's expression did not change as he indifferently said, "What old Sixth's wife? She and old Sixth broke off their engagement long ago. She is now only the daughter of Marquis Jingyuan." With a paw sound, the chess piece in Ji Yunxiao's hand fell onto the chessboard. Are you serious? Third brother, are you really interested in that little girl? She is a good-for-nothing, even old Sixth dislikes her. Good for nothing? Maybe she just doesn't have psychokinesis aptitude. Ji Yanhuang placed down a chess piece. TSK, speaking up for her like this, it seems like your stone heart is finally starting to waver. However, third brother, this little brother sincerely advises you. That girl was once engaged to old Sixth. Even if she has already broken off the engagement, it won't be good for you to take her. There are so many beautiful women in this world who want to throw themselves at you. So why do you have to be entangled with her? Don't even talk about marrying her as an imperial concubine. Even if you want to take her as a concubine, imperial father will definitely not agree. With a paw sound, the chess piece in Ji Yinhuang's hand almost shattered the chessboard. Old Fifth, when did I say that I want to take a wife as a concubine? You're thinking too much. Come, it's rare for us brothers to get together. If I don't accompany you to kill all night, then I'm sorry that you called me third brother. The speed at which he placed his chess piece was much faster. Ji Yunxiao's lips twitched. Who is accompanying who? He had never stayed up this late before. He was so tired. Ning Xuema was awakened by a loud noise. She opened her eyes and saw the faint light of a fire outside the window. There was also the sound of hurried footsteps. Lord Lu, no one is allowed to enter the Crown Prince's palace. Now that the Crown Prince is not here, without his permission, your people are not allowed to enter. Ning Xuema could tell that the person speaking was the Crown Prince's housekeeper. I am handling this case by imperial decree. Since the criminal is hiding in the Crown Prince's palace, how can I catch her if I don't go in? Lord Lu's voice was very dignified. There's no other way. No matter what, you can't barge into the Crown Prince's palace. Otherwise, if the Crown Prince blames you, we won't be able to bear the consequences. Lord Lu, why don't you wait until the Crown Prince returns? The housekeeper did not give way. There's a criminal in the Crown Prince's palace? Could it be that the person that Lord Lu wanted to capture her? Why? She didn't seem to have broken any laws, right? However, she also knew that once she was implicated in the royal family's affairs, who knew how many plots and schemes would be plotted against her? Since they came to arrest her with such great fanfare, they must have something on her. She was just an orphan girl with no one to rely on. If there were any officials or nobles who wanted to kill her, they would make her take the blame. She couldn't just sit and wait for death. Once she was captured and sent to the prison of the Ministry of Justice, her life would be over. Ning Xuema subconsciously wanted to jump up from the bed, but as soon as she moved, she felt numb all over. Her hands and feet didn't feel like they were her own, so she couldn't move at all. Damn it. Before Ji Yinhuang left, he had sealed her acupoints so that she could rest and recuperate. She could not move at all. She pricked up her ears and listened for a moment. Lord Lu and the Crown Prince's head steward were still arguing outside, but they didn't send troops to barge in. It seemed that Lord Lu was still very wary of the Crown Prince. She heaved a sigh of relief. If things continued like this, she would have to wait for Ji Yinhuang to return before she could make a decision. Then, she would still have a chance to escape. She didn't know where Ji Yinhuang had gone. If he was present, even if Lord Lu was under the orders of the Emperor, he wouldn't let anyone take her away so easily. Chapter 55. She closed her eyes and used the little bit of internal energy that she had just cultivated to attack the sealed acupoints. It was better to rely on herself than on others. She had to save herself. She had to recover her mobility first. After all, her body was too weak and the internal energy in her body was limited. Furthermore, Ji Yunhuang's acupoint sealing technique was very special, so she couldn't undo it in a short time. Just as she was concentrating, she suddenly heard a pleasant female voice from outside. "What's all this commotion about in my brother's place?" Lord Lu said. "Reporting to your highness, Marshal whose daughter suddenly died after returning home today. Marquis Jingyuan's daughter, Ning Xuema, is a major suspect. This lowly official was ordered by the emperor to arrest her, but the housekeeper did not allow me to enter." Although they were separated by half a courtyard, Ning Xuema could still hear Lord Lu's words clearly. Her mind was blown. Hu Daichang died. How could that be? At that time, she had only used a special acupoint sealing technique to affect her fetus. At most, she would be unable to conceive in the future. How could she suddenly die? Outside the courtyard, the housekeeper repeated the same words as before. The princess laughed coldly and said, "Other people can't enter Brother Crown Prince's bedroom, but I can. The emperor's orders cannot be disobeyed. I will help you this time." As soon as she finished speaking, the door to the palace was suddenly pushed open. Ning Xuema's vision blurred. and a young girl dressed in luxurious clothes was standing in front of the bed. She looked to be about 17 or 18 years old. Her red phoenix eyes were slanted, and her cherry blossom lips were lightly pursed. Her black hair was tied up high with a peony white jade hairpin inserted into the bun. She wore a moon-white mermaid dress, which made her look like a fairy. She looked down at Ning Xuema and sized her up. A dark light flashed in her eyes. "You are Ning Xuema? You are so young yet so seductive. I don't know what kind of underhanded method you used to make my brother keep you in his palace. You are ruining his reputation." This princess had a strong enmity towards her. She looked at her as if she was looking at her rival in love. Ning Xuema narrowed her eyes slightly, and the information about this princess quickly flashed through her mind. This princess's name was Ji Yunyao. She didn't grow up in the palace. It was said that when the old emperor was out on an inspection tour, he happened to meet a commoner woman and she got pregnant. After the old emperor returned to the palace, that woman was pregnant for 10 months and gave birth to this princess. It wasn't until this princess was 15 years old that the woman told her the truth before she died. Thus, she came to the capital alone to acknowledge her relatives. This kind of drama was a bit like Ziwei and Princess Pearl, but she did not go through so much trouble like Ziwei. Her process of being recognized was very smooth. Not long after she arrived in the capital, she became a noble princess. The old emperor had many princes, but she was the only princess. Naturally, he doted on her a lot. The princess also got along well with her brothers. Of course, the one she got along with the most was the crown prince. It was said that Ji Yinhuang doted on her a lot. Every time he returned to the capital, this princess would follow him like a shadow, and the doors of the crown prince's residence would always be open for her. It seemed like the rumors were true. Ji Yunyao could enter and leave the crown prince's palace as she pleased. Ji Yunyao's hostility towards her was too strong, and Ning Xuema could naturally sense it. She lowered her eyes slightly, and the corners of her lips slightly hooked up. It seemed like this princess's feelings towards her brother, the crown prince, were not pure. Incestuous love? What are you laughing at, you lowly servant? You are about to die, and you are still laughing. Ji Yunyao was angry. Chapter 56. Ning Xuema lifted her eyes. Princess misunderstands. His Highness the Crown Prince and I are pure and innocent. We are just ordinary friends. He kept me here only because he took a fancy to my medical skills and cherished my talent. That's why he treated me. Because I can't move after the treatment, he let me stay here. His Highness also left the residence to avoid arousing suspicion. You called me a vixen and said that I used underhanded methods. Not only did you insult me, but you also insulted your brother Crown Prince. Is he such a shallow person? A woman who was blinded by jealousy could not be reasoned with. Now that Ning Xuema had fallen into her hands, she could not resist. She did not want to be burned to death by her jealousy for no reason. The first thing she did was to draw a clear line between her and Ji Yinhuang, and remove a portion of the princess's hostility. That way she would suffer less. Sure enough, after she said those words, the hostility in Ji Yunyao's eyes lessened a bit. However, she still had some doubts. Medical skills? What kind of medical skills could a good-for-nothing like you have? Ning Xuema continued to smile and calmly explained. This humble girl does not dare to lie in front of Princess. A few days ago, I cured a woman with a broken arm. If Princess does not believe me, you can personally go to the Supreme Court to ask. That woman is still being treated in the Supreme Court. The suspicion in Ji Yunyao's eyes deepened. But you're talking nonsense. How come this princess has never heard of this matter? Ning Xuema suddenly understood. On this continent, there weren't many divine doctors. Every divine doctor was highly sought after by various countries. In order to not let the other countries know about it, she was afraid that Ji Yinhuang had quietly suppressed the news of her reconnecting her second aunt's arm. No wonder she had not heard anyone talk about this when she was strolling on the streets these past few days. It turned out that this matter had not spread outside. If Princess does not believe me, you can go and ask His Highness the Crown Prince when you have time. He will know that Xuema is not lying. Ji Yunyao's red phoenix eyes jumped. Although she still did not believe her, the hostility in her eyes lessened a lot. This princess will ask clearly about this matter. However, you are suspected of murdering Miss Hu. You have to go to the Ministry of Justice to give an explanation. She lifted her hand to unseal Ning Xuema's acupoints and said, "Get up and follow me." Ning Xuema moved her slightly numb joints. The whip wounds on her body were still burning with pain. Because of the whip wounds, her body was far less agile than usual. And this princess was obviously a psychokinesis expert. If he wanted to escape from under her nose, there was not even half a chance. Instead, he would suffer more, of course. Ning Xuema wouldn't do such a stupid thing. All she wanted to do was to delay. She had to stall for time until the crown prince came back. If she had known earlier, she would have let the crown prince rest in the same room as her. She slowly got up, put on her shoes and straightened her clothes. Ji Yunyao was impatient. "Why are you moving so slowly? Hurry up." Ning Xuema cursed her ancestors in her heart, but the expression on her face was very obedient. "Yes, Your Highness. This commoner was injured and my body is in pain. My movements are a bit slow. Please forgive me, Your Highness." Ji Yunyao knew that she had been whipped and knew the power of the soul-breaking whip. She humphed and did not rush her anymore. Ning Xuema's movements were already very slow. It took her a full quarter of an hour to tidy herself up. While tidying herself up, she glanced outside the window. In her heart, she miserably cursed. "Mother, where did that bastard Ji Yinhuang go? Why isn't he back yet?" Chapter 57. At this moment, Ji Yinhuang was in a place that Ning Xuema would never have expected, the Imperial Palace. He originally planned to play chess with Ji Yunxiao for the night, but unexpectedly, he received an imperial edict from the palace in the middle of the night. His imperial father urgently summoned him to the palace. The imperial edict could not be disobeyed, so he could only bid farewell to the fifth prince and directly enter the palace. What he didn't know was that not even 15 minutes after he left, the guards from the crown prince's residence hurriedly came to the fifth prince's residence. They wanted to report to him that the Ministry of Justice had come to arrest him, but they didn't find him. Ji Yinhuang only found out when he entered the palace that his imperial father had caught a cold and was lying on the dragon bed. He specifically asked him to accompany him. Ji Yinhuang was helpless. He also had nowhere to go tonight, so he stayed behind. He felt that his imperial father was a little long-winded tonight. He asked him about his recent situation and chatted with him. He could only reply perfunctorily. He did not know why he felt a little anxious. He wanted to go back to the residence to take a look, but his imperial father was particularly clingy tonight and did not allow him to leave. Ning Xuema had delayed long enough, but Ji Yunhuang had not returned. In the end, she was brought out by Ji Yunyao and handed over to Lord Lu from the Ministry of Justice. Ning Xuema naturally asked for the reason for her arrest, but Lord Lu simply said, "You will naturally know when you arrive at the Ministry of Justice. If you are wronged, you will naturally be released." He ordered people to handcuff Ning Xuema with iron chains. Ning Xuema knew that with her current ability, she would not be able to escape, so she did not make any unnecessary struggles to avoid suffering. She gritted her teeth and followed them. What Ning Xuema did not expect was that she would not be brought to the Ministry of Justice's main hall after being arrested. Instead, she was directly sent to the Ministry of Justice's prison. The long and narrow passageway, the thick and dark stone walls, the dim and swaying oil lamp, the damp and fishy smell, and from time to time, the screams and groans from the depths of the prison. Everything was no different from the ancient prison that Ning Xuema had guessed. In fact, it was even more frightening. That Lord Lu sent people to escort her into the prison. When she was handed over to a thin and withered man, Ning Xuema knew that the situation was far from good. That man had a short stature, and appeared to be about the same height as Ning Xuema. He was short, fat and thin, but his face was so wrinkled that it could squeeze a fly to death. The corners of his eyes drooped, and his pair of triangular eyes emitted a razor-sharp light. He was wearing a dark red robe that was speckled with brown stains that looked like blood stains. He seemed to be disabled in both legs, and was pushed out in a wheelchair by the prison guards. Despite its ugly appearance, it exuded a dark and bloody aura that made people shudder. There were 6 bailiffs from the Ministry of Justice who escorted Ning Xuema in. One of the leaders exchanged greetings with the man. From their greetings, Ning Xuema learned that the man was called Tui Dao, a very fierce and murderous name. She did not know what the leader of the bailiffs said to Tui Dao, but Tui Dao nodded his head slightly and sized up Ning Xuema. Ning Xuema felt an indescribable chill run down her spine. She faintly felt as if a blade had brushed past her. It was as if she was being stared at by a ferocious beast. Not good. Could it be that they were going to punish her without distinguishing between right and wrong? Were they going to give her a beating first? Ning Xuema slowly clenched her fists, and the iron chains on her wrists made a clanking sound. The 6 bailiffs from the Ministry of Justice turned around and left. Tui Dao glanced at Ning Xuema again. A bloodthirsty light flashed in his eyes, and he ordered his men to escort Ning Xuema inside. Chapter 58. Where are you taking me? Ning Xuema didn't move. Tui Dao smiled, revealing his white teeth. Of course it's where you should go. You killed Marshal Hu's daughter. Do you still want to live in a luxurious room? I didn't kill her. Her death has nothing to do with me. Little girl, you won't be saying that soon. Take her to the torture chamber. Tui Dao's face darkened as he sternly ordered. Ning Xuema's heart sank. These people didn't even interrogate her before torturing her. They obviously wanted to torture her into confessing and send her to eternal damnation. Who was the one behind her back that wanted to harm her? She still had whip wounds on her body, and her strength hadn't recovered yet. She couldn't move nimbly, and her hands and feet were still shackled. She was surrounded by 16 tall and strong prison guards. Looking at their bright eyes, Ning Xuema knew that their cultivations weren't low. With her current strength, it would be a fool's dream to force her way in. She steeled her heart and followed them inside. There was a bluestone path under her feet. It was bumpy and uneven, and there were dark red bloodstains in those potholes. Under the light of the oil lamps, they could be seen clearly. The deeper they went in, the heavier the smell of blood became, and the worse the smell became. There were prisoners in cage-like cells on both sides. Some of them were lying on the grass. Some were holding on to the iron door, and some were lying on the dirty stone slabs. Although their postures were different, they all had one thing in common, and that was that they had all gone through the cruelest punishment. Their hair was disheveled, their clothes were torn, and their flesh was missing piece by piece. Even their bones seemed to have been deformed, and their bodies were grotesquely shaped. Every one of them was trembling, and they were all growling. Although their voices were indistinct, their movements were quite loud, like the low cries of death, and hearing it gave people goosebumps. Little girl, do you see this? These people are all stubborn and refuse to confess. They're suffering for nothing. Tui Dao's voice was naturally hoarse, and his words were like the hissing of a poisonous snake. It sounded eerily in the dark corridor. Ning Xuema lowered her eyes and didn't say anything. She had seen the world in her previous life. During her special agent training, she had been subjected to torture when she was unfortunately arrested. She had been forced to drink chilly water, sit on a tiger stool, and even sit on an electric chair. She had also captured enemy agents and interrogated them personally, torturing them. However, that was a modern society after all, with international public opinion and pervasive media monitoring. Even if they were to use torture, they would not use the extremely cruel ancient punishments. But now everything she saw was as if she was in the 18th level of hell. Even the 10 great tortures of the Qing dynasty were not as tragic as what she saw. Those people did not even look human anymore. She definitely wouldn't be able to endure such a punishment with her delicate skin and tender flesh. Even if she were to take a step back, even if she had a body full of stubbornness, if she turned into a ghost like those people, then what was the point of her living? What to do? What should she do? Waiting for someone to save him. She knew too few people in this world. The only one who was truly good to her was the Crown Prince, but he was nowhere to be found. He might not be able to make it tonight. Even if she could rush over, she probably wouldn't be able to make it. Moreover, from the looks of it now, this was clearly a trap. A trap that wanted to completely destroy her. The person who set this trap had most likely blocked off all the possibilities of her being saved. Otherwise, Ji Yunhuang would have rushed over long ago. She didn't believe that the Crown Prince's information would be blocked to this extent. He must have been hindered. Chapter 59. There shouldn't be anyone coming to save her tonight. She had to save herself. But in this heavily guarded prison, how was she going to save herself and escape this misfortune? Tu Yidao's snake-like gaze fell on her, and a trace of astonishment flashed through his triangular eyes. Many indomitable and unyielding men came here, and saw the miserable state of the others in the prison. Many of them were so frightened that they peed their pants. Even if they were brave enough to walk, their faces were pale, and their heads were covered in cold sweat. Ning Xuema only slightly pursed her lips and lowered her head. No other expression could be seen on her small face. His appearance was ugly, his height was similar to a dwarf's, and his voice was unpleasant to the ears. Coupled with his lame legs, Tu Yidao usually couldn't raise his head in front of others. However, his personality was extremely arrogant. The huge contrast in his life made his personality turn gloomy and perverted. Although his appearance wasn't very good to the public, he had a pair of unparalleled skillful hands and super perverted torture methods. In addition, he was good at observing people's expressions and flattering people. Therefore, his official position rose very quickly. From a small prison guard, he became the head of the prison. Along the way, he had stepped on countless skeletons and lives. His personality was cold and his methods were cruel. Regardless of whether the prisoners who fell into his hands were innocent or not, they would all confess. He was full of tricks. His cruel and vicious torture methods made everyone's expression change when they talked about him. In the Ministry of Justice's prison, he had a nickname. King of Hell. Tuesday years of bloody life made his personality slide further and further down the path of perverted behavior. He had a strange hobby. He liked to see prisoners pee their pants and listen to the prisoners' miserable screams. In his ears, the prisoners' miserable screams were the most beautiful music. The more miserable the screams were, the more beautiful it was. Moreover, he liked to torture young and beautiful women the most. Seeing them moan and cry under his torture gave him a perverted sense of accomplishment. As for Ning Xuema, if she fell into the clutches of such a pervert tonight, how could she survive? Ah! A mournful cry came from a room at the end of the road. It was a woman's voice. It was as sharp as the cry of a malicious spirit. Ning Xuema's body trembled. She raised her head and looked over. Her pupils suddenly shrank. That room was the torture chamber. She finally saw the real torture scene. And that scene made Ning Xuema, who was used to seeing storms, feel her palms turn cold. There were all kinds of strange torture tools in the room. Dirty blood flowed on the floor, and the stench of blood assailed their nostrils, making them want to vomit. There was a person nailed to the stone wall in the middle of the room. That should be a young girl. Her body was naked and covered in bloodstains. Her breasts were already gone, having been cut off while she was still alive. There was a red-hot iron rod stuck in her most delicate part of her body, which was currently emitting white smoke. The air was filled with the smell of barbecued flesh. The reason why Ning Xuema could tell that she was a young girl was because her face was intact and her fingers were as slender as jade. That girl was very beautiful. Her pretty face was flawless. She had such a perfect face, but her body had been tortured until it was in tatters. Her flesh was badly mutilated, and her bones were exposed in many places. Such a contrast gave people a strong impact. Ning Xuema's whole body turned cold. Tu Yidao's eyes had been staring at Ning Xuema like a poisonous snake. Seeing that her expression finally changed, he was unusually happy and laughed. Little girl, you probably don't recognize her. She's a famous woman in our Chongkong country. Chapter 60. Tu Yidao's eyes had been staring at Ning Xuema like a poisonous snake. Seeing that her expression had finally changed, he was exceptionally happy and chuckled. Little girl, you probably don't recognize her. She's a famous girl in our Chongkong Empire. She was a psychokinesis genius since she was young, and was chosen by the second largest sect, the Heavenly Star sect. She became the inner disciple of one of the three protectors there, and was once the pride of our Chong Kong Empire. Her mistake was that she didn't learn well, and actually went to the imperial palace to steal the princess things. She was caught red-handed by the princess and sent here. She's very stubborn and didn't confess. That's why she suffered so much. TSK, why did she have to suffer so much? Tui Dao shook his head and sighed. I didn't steal. Ji Yunniao framed me. That girl was in so much pain. But her mind was still very clear, and she tried to defend herself with a hoarse voice. TSK, it seems like you didn't suffer enough. You need this official to personally serve you. Tui Dao sneered and slowly pushed his wheelchair over. You pervert, just kill me. That girl screamed. Little beauty, you haven't confessed yet. How can this official bear to kill you? I can only properly serve you. Tui Dao took out a small knife that was as thin as a cicada's wing and stroked that girl's delicate cheeks with his slender and cold fingers. He sighed softly. What a beautiful and delicate face. If it was peeled off and made into a human skin mask, it would definitely be very exquisite. Don't worry, this official won't destroy your face. I'll take it off completely. That girl's body trembled and she gritted her teeth. Her personality was indeed strong. Other than her arms, the rest of her bones were broken inch by inch. If she wasn't nailed to the ground, she would have collapsed like mud. This girl was already completely crippled. Even if she survived, she would be a cripple who couldn't take care of herself. This Tui Dao didn't want the truth. He only wanted the result he wanted. Therefore, it was useless to cry out to him. Ning Xiuma's palms were covered in cold sweat. Was she going to die here tonight? She looked on helplessly as Tui Dao used that thin knife to peel off that girl's face bit by bit. The woman's screams were almost ear-piercing. No matter how brave Ning Xiuma was, he was drenched in cold sweat. The woman fainted several times, and was woken up several times by splashes of ice water. She could neither live nor die. When the woman was once again awakened by a splash of cold water, she finally broke down completely. I confess. I only beg for death. Tui Dao smiled. His smile was very complacent and compassionate. Pitiful child. If you had done this earlier, you wouldn't have had to suffer so much. The other jailers had already brought forward the written confession for the woman to sign. Ning Xiuma finally understood why this perverted demon didn't break the prisoner's hand. It was all for this moment. That woman was untied from the wall, and laid there like a pile of mud. Fresh blood formed a puddle beneath her body. Tui Dao waited for her to finish signing before looking at it with satisfaction. He flicked the paper and folded it with satisfaction. Then he casually stabbed the woman's heart. The woman's body trembled. She let out her last breath as if she had been freed and finally stopped moving. Take her away and throw her to the wild dogs in the mass grave. Tui Dao turned his wheelchair around in disdain. The woman, who no longer looked human, was dragged out. Only Ning Xiuma, Tui Dao, and a few jailers were left in the torture room. Chapter 61. Tui Dao shook the skin that he had just peeled off, and handed it to Ning Xiuma. Little miss, do you think this official's skills are good enough? Ning Xiuma subconsciously took 2 steps back and looked at the skin. She had to admit that Tui Dao's skills were really good. The skin was as thin as a cicada's wing, and was even in thickness. It didn't have the slightest bit of damage or knife marks. It looked very neat. Little miss, are you scared? If you're scared, then obediently confess. To tell you the truth, this official quite likes your tender skin. If I peel it off, it will definitely be very beautiful. Tui Dao's cold hands almost touched Ning Xiuma's cheeks as he laughed strangely. This official will count to 3. If you don't confess, you will also be put on the torture rack. The prison guards here had been influenced by Tui Dao for a long time, so almost all of them were perverted. At this moment, 4 pairs of eyes were staring at her like tigers and wolves. They were rubbing their palms together, waiting for her to say no before they put her on the torture rack. Every night, my waist hurts. My lumbosacral region is as stiff as a rock. Intermittently, or alternately, I feel pain on both sides of my waist and buttocks. It radiates to my thighs. My waist muscles convulse. Ning Xuema suddenly opened her mouth and uttered a string of professional terms. The other prison guards didn't understand what she was saying, but Tu Yidao's body suddenly stiffened. His triangular eyes shot out a sharp light. "Little miss, what did you say?" Ning Xuema's eyes were as clear as a lake, shining brightly. She slowly said, "First, your legs will hurt, then your joints will hurt, and slowly become swollen and deformed. After 3 years, you will lose all feeling and become as stiff as wood or stone." Tu Yidao's eyes widened, and he looked at Ning Xuema as if he was looking at a monster. "You." The symptoms that Ning Xuema described were exactly the same as his. In the entire Chongkong Empire, no one could see through his illness, let alone treat it. They could only let it develop. This illness had been tormenting him for 6 years, but he didn't expect that it would be exposed by a little miss today. His originally desperate heart suddenly jumped. "You know about this illness?" Ning Xuema smiled and nodded. "Not only do I know, but I also know how to treat them." Tu Yidao, who had always been as calm as a rock, trembled slightly. "How do you treat him?" "If you let me go, I'll treat you," Ning Xuema said straightforwardly. A dark light flashed through Tu Yidao's triangular eyes. "Little girl, you're exaggerating. I don't know how many famous doctors I've invited to treat my illness, but none of them could cure me. Do you really have one? I don't believe it. This humble girl can try treating Milord on the spot. If there is no effect, this humble girl will be at your disposal." Tu Yidao muttered to himself for a while and finally couldn't resist the temptation and nodded. "Okay. I'll give you a chance." Ning Xuema looked at the iron chain on her wrist. "Sir, please have someone prepare 20 silver needles." She said a series of things and finally made a request. "Treating your illness is a delicate job. I'm afraid it's not possible to have this iron chain on my wrist." The things she wanted were all available in the Ministry of Justice's prison. Tu Yidao quickly sent someone to fetch them. The iron chain on Ning Xuema's wrist was also unlocked. Her legs were still shackled, and she was also a good-for-nothing without psychokinesis. Tu Yidao naturally wasn't afraid that she would play any tricks. Ning Xuema smiled slightly and began to treat Tu Yidao with acupuncture under the watchful eyes of the prison guards. Her movements were swift and nimble. The acupuncture technique she used was a lost acupuncture technique she had learned in the modern era. This technique could take effect in a very short time. After the acupuncture was done, she stood up. "It can take effect within an hour. Milord, you can stand for a while." Tu Yidao's face was full of disbelief. He didn't know how many medicines he had taken and how many needles he had received over the past few years, but they all seemed to have no effect at all. Chapter 62. How could this little girl make him stand up with just a dozen needles on his legs and waist? Ning Xuema ignored him and sat down on one of the torture instruments after the needles were inserted. She closed her eyes and rested. She had to make full use of every second to heal herself. Unknowingly, an hour had passed. Tu Yidao's stiff waist seemed to have a warm current flowing rapidly, spreading to his legs. Wherever it passed, the stiff and numb feeling gradually disappeared. Then, under the watchful eyes of the jailers, his legs suddenly moved. It moved, it moved. "Sir, your legs moved." Someone cried out in surprise. Although Tu Yidao's face was still gloomy, his hands couldn't help but tremble. He could feel his legs. He really could feel them. He tried his best to control his excitement, and slowly tried to stand up from the wheelchair. He staggered a few steps like a child learning how to walk. Although his legs were numb and painful, his heart was blooming with joy. He could walk. After being crippled for 3 years, he finally tasted the feeling of walking with his own legs again. The surrounding jailers congratulated him incessantly. Tu Yidao slowly walked a dozen steps before sitting back down in his wheelchair. His face darkened. "Little girl, although I can walk a few steps, my legs are numb and painful. It's even more painful than before. It didn't work at all. Come, punish her." When Ning Xuema was inserting needles for him, he secretly memorized the steps. In the future, He could treat himself by himself and didn't need to rely on this little girl anymore. Ning Xiuma's case was directly suppressed by the higher-ups. Even if he had 8 times the courage, he wouldn't dare to let her go without permission. He couldn't even let her live past tonight. Although the jailers didn't understand what Tui Dao was thinking, they had always followed his lead. They immediately agreed and strode forward to arrest Ning Xiuma. Sir, this humble girl only said that the needles worked this time. I just wanted to let you see the results first. If you want to completely cure your illness, you need another treatment plan. Ning Xiuma said. Tui Dao was stunned for a moment. He waved his hand and dismissed the jailers who were about to take action. What's your other treatment plan? Ning Xiuma smiled and said nothing. Tui Dao paused for a moment and coldly said, this official knew that you would raise conditions. What are your conditions? Don't even think that I'll let you go. I don't have that right. Ning Xiuma sighed softly. I also know that it's impossible for you to let me go. Xiuma only has one request, and that is to let go of Xiuma for one night without torture. Can you agree to that? Tui Dao's eyes flickered. He thought for a moment, and didn't answer Ning Xiuma's question directly. Instead he asked, how long will your other treatment plan take? At least 6 hours. Ning Xiuma answered every question. Tui Dao looked at the hourglass beside him. There were still 8 hours until daybreak. The higher-ups would only ask him for the results after daybreak, and 2 hours was enough for him to properly concoct a girl. He smiled as kindly and sincerely as he could. All right, this official promises you. Ning Xiuma's eyes flickered, and her face was filled with hope. Thank you, sir. Xiuma will definitely treat you properly, and let you be completely cured. You won't have to suffer from this illness anymore. Tui Dao nodded and smiled amiably. That's good. This official still likes a little girl like you. It's fine to let you go for one night. Who knows, someone might come to save you tomorrow morning. That way you'll be saved. Xiuma thinks so. No matter what, I have to thank sir for giving Xiuma this opportunity. Ning Xiuma's smile bloomed like a flower. Chapter 63. While comforting her, Tui Dao sneered in his heart. She was a little girl after all. She was too naive. She was easy to trick and coax. His superiors had clearly stated that he could use any means on this girl as long as she confessed tonight. After she confessed, he would execute her and make it look like she committed suicide after confessing. Everything had already been arranged. This little girl actually wanted to use her medical skills to exchange for a chance to live. She was really naive. This little girl was still talented. What a pity. He had already calculated that Ning Xiuma would treat him for 6 hours. As for the remaining 2 hours, it would be enough for him to properly deal with her and make her obediently admit her guilt. Not only would he be able to cure his chronic illness, he would also be able to complete the mission assigned to him by the higher-ups. He was afraid that Ning Xiuma wouldn't do her best to treat him, so he spoke to her very kindly and agreed to all her requests. For example, he unlocked all the shackles on her body, found all the necessary surgical tools, and sent all the prison guards out to wait outside the door. Ning Xiuma said that she needed absolute silence during these 6 hours and couldn't be disturbed by anyone. Tui Dao's psychokinesis wasn't low. Even if he couldn't walk, with his martial arts, he could withstand the attacks of 20 to 30 strong men. Naturally, he didn't care about this thin and weak girl. Even if they were alone in a room, he wasn't afraid that she would play tricks. If she dared to play tricks, he could crush all the bones in her body in an instant. Everyone also felt that a little girl like Ning Xiuma wouldn't be able to play any tricks. After preparing everything, they all left. Tui Dao secretly sized up Ning Xiuma's small face. Her small face was filled with joy, as if a heavy burden had been lifted from her shoulders. Clearly, she had already believed his promise and was wholeheartedly waiting for someone to rescue her tomorrow. Since she was like this, she naturally wouldn't play any tricks. Tui Dao was even more relieved. After Ning Xiuma arranged the needles, she squatted in front of Tui Dao and started to insert the needles. Every single needle was used right under Tui Dao's nose, and the acupoints that were pierced were not the most fatal ones. In the beginning, Tui Dao was still on guard, but after a while he relaxed. He looked at the little head that was busy working in front of him with her head lowered. He looked at her little face that was flushed red from using the needles too often. And evil thoughts began to form in his heart. Although this girl was thin and weak, she had a pretty face. When she smiled, she was especially sweet and pleasant. If such a girl was directly executed, it would be a waste of God's gift. Perhaps he would use her as an appetizer and let her have a taste of men before. When he thought of this, a sinister smile appeared on his face. It has to be said that this girl's method of inserting needles was very strange, but also very effective. After inserting 30 needles into his body began to feel numb and hot. Waves of heat flowed through his body, giving him an indescribable comfortable feeling. He humphed and opened his mouth to praise her, but unexpectedly, when he opened his mouth, not a single word came out. His throat seemed to have malfunctioned. His nerves could not reach there. What was going on? Tui Dao subconsciously wanted to straighten his body, but his brain had already ordered his limbs to move. His limbs didn't have the slightest intention of moving. It felt like he had fallen into a nightmare. His heart understood everything and could see everything, but he couldn't shout or move. Chapter 64. He felt like he had fallen into a nightmare. He understood everything and could see everything, but he couldn't shout or move. Tui Dao's triangular eyes were filled with fear. He looked on helplessly as Ning Xiuema slowly stood up and smiled at him. Her smile was sweet, but in Tui Dao's eyes, it was filled with a sinister aura. "Sir, how do you feel?" Tui Dao's forehead was covered in cold sweat. He wanted to reprimand her, but he couldn't make a sound. Little girls' medical skills are really good. Very good, very good. Tui Dao didn't say anything, but he was shocked to hear his own voice ring out in the torture chamber. His eyes widened as he looked at Ning Xiuema talking to herself. She could actually imitate his voice. And it was so vivid. The 4 jailers waiting outside the torture chamber were also worried about their superior. They had been listening to the movements inside, but when they heard this conversation, they finally relaxed. Tui Dao had instructed them not to enter without his call, no matter what they heard. It was boring to wait outside, so the 4 of them walked away and found a card table to play mahjong. "Sir, you don't want to let me go, right? You want me to treat your illness before torturing me, right?" Ning Xiuema spoke softly, her breath like orchids beside his ear. Tui Dao's cold sweat rolled down even more. He wanted to shake his head to deny it, but his brain wouldn't listen to him. "Don't try to deny it. I already know what you're trying to do." Ning Xiuema smiled. She unhurriedly took a small hammer from the table beside her and waved it in front of Tui Dao. "Come, be obedient and tell me. Who was it that wanted to plot against me and take my life?" Tui Dao couldn't answer, but his eyes kept darting around. "Oh, I forgot that you can't speak now. How about this? I'll say the names one by one. If it's you, look down. If it's not you, move your eyes left and right. How about that?" How could he dare to say that? Tui Dao clenched his teeth and closed his eyes. You're really uncooperative. Looks like I have no choice but to use some extreme methods on you. Actually, I don't have the heart to do that either." Just as she finished speaking, the hammer in her hand had already hit Tui Dao's left calf. Her technique was very special. Her seemingly casual tap landed right on the joint of his bones. With a light crack, his lower leg was directly fractured. The sharp pain caused Tui Dao's body to suddenly tremble, and cold sweat instantly covered his face. He opened his eyes and stared at the giggling girl, almost suspecting that she was the reincarnation of a devil. Ning Xiuema didn't want to talk nonsense with him. She asked him a question, but if he didn't answer, she would hit his bones with the hammer. Every time she hit him, she would break a piece of his bone. Tui Dao didn't know how many people he had broken in his life, but he had never thought that he would fall to such a state one day. The pain of his broken bones pierced his heart, causing his face to turn white, then green. Cold sweat broke out all over his body. Although he couldn't scream or struggle, his face was already twisted to the extreme, making him look even more ugly than before. He originally thought that even if Ning Xiuema had him restrained, She wouldn't really torture him. After all, this kind of torture required a very strong psychological endurance. Even if an ordinary person saw it, they wouldn't have the heart to do it. Not to mention doing it personally. Not to mention that the other party was a delicate little girl. However, Ning Xiuma's expression didn't change as she broke the bones in his legs. Chapter 65. But when Ning Xiuma broke his legs without batting an eyelid, he finally understood that the little girl in front of him was not an ordinary little girl, but a little devil. When Ning Xiuma finished breaking his legs and began to move towards his spine, Tui Dao finally couldn't take it anymore. His eyes revealed a pleading expression. "Are you going to tell me?" Ning Xiuma stopped hammering and gently asked. Tui Dao's eyes desperately moved up and down, indicating that he was nodding. Ning Xiuma still had some regret. "I thought Lord Tui Dao's bones were very hard. So it turns out that you're only like this." I asked, "Was it the sixth prince?" She began to list out names one by one. They were all her suspects. She mentioned the sixth prince, the crown prince, and the princess. When she mentioned the princess, Ji Yuniao, Tui Dao's eyes first moved to both sides, indicating denial. Then, as if he thought of something, his eyes began to move up and down, indicating acknowledgement. Was it really Ji Yuniao? With that girl's viciousness, it wasn't impossible for her to do it. Wasn't the girl who was tortured to death because of her? That girl had a special obsession with her crown prince Gij, and her jealousy was very strong. Perhaps as long as Ji Yunhuang treated any girl slightly better, it would incite her murderous intent. It was very possible that she would try to trip him up behind his back. Ning Xiuma swung the small hammer in her hand and silently pondered. In the blink of an eye, she saw Tui Dao's pair of triangular eyes looking at her. He seemed a little guilty. Ning Xiuma was an expert at reading people's expressions. She immediately smiled and used the small hammer in her hand to lift Tui Dao's chin. "You're really naughty. You actually lied." Tui Dao's eyes moved furiously, indicating denial. Ning Xiuma's charming face tensed up. "I hate it when people lie to me." She raised the hammer in her hand and directly broke the bones in Tui Dao's chin. Tui Dao was in so much pain that his entire body curled up. His mouth was open like a toad's and his throat was emitting sounds. If he could move, he would have already rolled over. The cold sweat on his body completely soaked his clothes. He wanted to faint, but he couldn't. He was in extreme pain. Ning Xiuma looked at him coldly. This guy had been tormenting others his whole life. Today, she would let him have a taste of what those people had gone through. She was the kind of person who would definitely repay kindness and hatred. She would definitely repay kindness and take revenge for enmity. She could treat her true friends like an angel, but she could also turn into a demon when dealing with evil people. Tui Dao was unlucky to have met her. The heavens were clear, and he deserved retribution. Ning Xiuma's method of torturing people was not inferior to his, and this little girl's methods were faster and more accurate than his. If it wasn't for the fact that he was the one being tormented, he would have taken her in as his disciple. In less than an hour, Tui Dao's psychological defenses had been completely destroyed by her, and he was finally willing to tell the truth. When Ning Xiuma mentioned the name of the current emperor, he finally nodded again. It was the emperor. Ning Xiuma had just asked casually. She didn't expect to hit the nail on the head. Had the emperor eaten too much? He actually couldn't tolerate a little girl like her. Why? In the past, Marquis Ning had made a lot of contributions to the emperor in order to stabilize the country. He could be said to be the emperor's right-hand man. Why did he have to be so ruthless to the daughter of a meritorious official? Ning Xiuma didn't really understand this society, so she couldn't figure it out for a while. Since she couldn't figure it out, she didn't want to waste her time thinking about it. Since the emperor wanted to kill her, she was afraid that she wouldn't be able to get away with it easily. You're tuning into the Earbook Haven YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.